Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday to you. It's Dave Neal, host of the Rush Hour podcast here. Look at that nice neon light we got. That's how you know it's legit. And we've got an epic live stream prepared. Cancel your plans. Don't call your sister back. You don't have time. In fact, let her know to watch the stream. This is what you guys need to talk about. This is going to be so interesting. I'm going to read for you every ounce of, well, I hope so, every ounce of the court document that was filed by Brian Friedman, power attorney. And you know it's legit here because I've got my gavel and I'm introducing a new prop to the channel. Microscope. Oh no, what's it called? What's this called again? Magnifying Glass Dave. This is called Magnifying Glass Dave, and this is where I'll look down upon those DMs and make sure. I mean, is there ever a better way to screen grab? Imagine you start following my channel several years ago, and then all of a sudden, here we are. We've really made it to the beautiful world. So I got this at Home Goods. You know, they got some good stuff at home. You ever go to Home Goods not knowing what you want, but you need to buy something to feel good? I got you. Magnifying glass. Because you know what? I'll be honest. I was joking around with my wife too. I was like, we were in the checkout and I was just buying this. And I told her, when I buy this, I'm going to use it to see if there's the right, when you tap your credit card on that device and it pays for the bill. I told her I was going to use this to do that. And she starts laughing and she just walks to the car. I was like, no, it's not fun if you're not with me. You need to be with me while I do stupid stuff to the, teenage cashier who doesn't care. I'm at the age now where I'm no longer of any interest to teenage cashiers. When you're in your 20s, a teenage cashier is like, oh, this guy, this age, no. They're like, that's a dad. And I'm like, how are you? Good to see you. Either way, got my magnifying glass. Now, we're going to have a hard time rallying audience because this is a little outside the niche, but we've spent the whole month going outside the niche, and we've had people unsubscribed because they don't like my political opinions, unsubscribed because I'm not covering enough Bachelor news, unsubscribed because my hair is intimidating to them. I mean, one thing after another. You know what? I am dug the F in. We are doing things the way we do things over here. I've also got a super chat goal set up for by the way, I haven't had my ears in. Can you guys hear me okay? Let's see. There it is. Oh, that's really nice. I've got my super chat locked in to bring August onto the channel. Teresa says, when you get another one for your Tesla, a magnifying glass so that I can see the roadmaps? Yeah, absolutely. And, this morning on the podcast, I actually interviewed a really kind of big deal, actually, V from Under the Desk News. So go check that out after, if you haven't already. V is kind of V is in control of saving TikTok right now. It was a very timely conversation. We also talked about content creation and what it means to kind of leap into new industries. As you guys know, I'm a full-time for probably the last 4 years now doing this, but talking to V about going viral and making the living, it's very interesting stuff. Okay, so Carrie said, already shared. Oh, good. And everyone in the comment section, let me know where you're coming in from. I promise you I'm going to start reading this in like the next couple minutes. I'm just going to try to, rally as many people to check out the stream before we get started. We're at 100 people. Let's get it up to like a couple. Let's try to get like 1,000 people in the chat today, right? Big Tiff Dog says, I wear my magnifying glasses on my face. Yeah, should I just get a spectacle? Should I just have a spectacle there? That's just a one. Anyhow. So, Justin Baldoni, and by the way, yesterday I was calling him Baldoni because someone else called him that, so I thought I was saying it wrong. Turns out I was saying it right. Justin Baldoni sues Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds for $400 million, alleges they sought to destroy him. Now, by the way, I'm not going to be low energy today, but I'm going to try my best to keep my voice down because, let me see if I can do this. I'm going to try my best to keep my voice down because there's going to be a lot of talking happening. And the good people at Starbucks today actually gave me 2 drinks because the first drink they gave me was a grande, and I was like, I hate to be a pain, but I asked for a venti, and again, I would have paid for another drink. I knew I needed the venti. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's a Friday. You don't do grandes on a Friday. You go in there with a big bucket and you say, fill her up, ma'am, sir. And anyway, so they were like, all right, they gave me the venti, and I was like, I'm not going to ask for them to give me the grande, but they're like, you want both? And I was like, give me both. So now I have a venti plus grande, which I think makes it a Trenta. I don't really know. Anyhow, so I'm going to try my best to talk quietly, just to preserve my voice. So Blake gets sued bigly, and some people were saying this lawsuit might be a little late because Brian Friedman lost his home in Pacific Palisades. I don't know how accurate that is, but Brian Friedman is the attorney for Justin Baldoni. Now, you're going to have to really take... Oh, Jenna with the $2 super chat. This is going to be a long one. Thank you for your hard work. Yeah, it is. It's going to be a long one. Justin, you're going to have to take gender and kind of throw it out the window here, because in traditional issues of gender, there's a power dynamic at play that kind of doesn't exist here. Blake Lively is the top dog. She is 10 times as famous as Justin Baldoni. He was on a cable TV show, Jane the Virgin. And the tie that I have is that I've done background and stand-in work on both Gossip Girl and Jane the Virgin, which means nothing to nobody. I don't know any of them. But I will tell you, Blake looked miserable every time I was on set. And, my wife did background work on Gossip Girl, and we actually both did it separately before we met, even because we worked in the same, industry. And Tasha will tell you the same story. Blake looks miserable. Now, you could argue that's her studying. I look miserable when I'm ordering Chinese food. I'm like, what do I want? Do I want the Kung Pao or the orange? Last time I got the Mongolian beef, I had a Mongolian disaster. What do I want to, and I look like a bad guy. So, hey, I'm giving grace here, right? And meanwhile, Justin looks like a sucker. He's got all these muscles. He looks strong and handsome, tall, dark, and handsome. All the things that make girls feel a little, oh, you're trouble. So anyhow, does that mean he's a bad guy? No, none of this means anything other than let's read the lawsuit. How about that? Well, Blake Lively has responded to this lawsuit that we're about to read. She says, your lawsuit shows you're an abuser. She's not backing down from Justin's massive legal challenge. It says his $400 million lawsuit is straight out of the abuser's playbook. Also, and the moderators already know this because we run a hell of a tight ship on this channel, free speech is lovely. We don't fight with each other. It's a hard no arguing with each other. If you feel like you're getting in an argument in the comment section, time yourself out. Just wait a minute, because we don't do that. Not on Fridays, not any day. It's not the platform. It's not a valuable conversation. I'm not telling you guys everyone needs to be hunky-dory. You can disagree with each other, but no personal attacks, this and that. So I'm going to do my best to not be Team Justin or Team Blake. And I would suggest until this trial's over, which might be in a year from now, I would suggest, holding off, have a little poker face. Sarah Winks with $10. Oh, thank you so much. You don't have to do that. Says, love this goal. We appreciate you, Dave. Yeah, I already told Augie. I said, look, you're in the other room. When I hit 10, you're coming out. So, Carrie says, I have a theory after processing JB's lawsuit. Well, please share your theory. Yeah, you don't want to go to Moose Jail. You'll get the antler, all right. Yeah, Sarah said I kind of wouldn't mind Moose Jail. Easy now. You're gonna get bucked off the old prison yard. Okay, what? Blake's legal team responded to Justin's lawsuit Thursday with a scathing statement saying, "This is an age-old story. A woman speaks up with concrete evidence of sexual harassment in retaliation, and the abuser attempts to turn the tables on the victim. This is what experts call DARVO: deny, attack, reverse, victim, offender." Now, she's sued him for sexual harassment. She will have her day in court to prove that. We've seen documents, and we'll have those cross-examined, and it's really not up to us to litigate it. but we'll see if she's right. Live, I would be shocked. You know what? Nothing would shock me at this point. The one thing I'm holding on to that might be in Justin's defense is that he's got Brian Friedman attorney, and I can't imagine he would have taken this case unless there was a massive, massive paycheck. Likewise, the thing that I hold on to for Team Blake is that all of the cast followed her and not him. With that said, she could have privately told them things and them not wanting, and them going, oh, F that guy. What a creep. You know what I mean? So it could have been that scenario, but democratically speaking, she has the cast on her side, but also she's also got Deadpool. So the cast is going to be fickle people trying to, protect their careers. Lively's team says Justin and his production company are pulling out, all stops that is, to try and overwhelm the public's ability to understand that what they are doing is retaliation against sexual harassment allegations. As we told you, anything else? The legal team says they are trying to shift the narrative to Miss Lively by falsely claiming that she seized creative control and alienated the cast from Mr. Baldoni. The evidence will show that the cast and others had their own negative experiences with Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer. The evidence will also show that Sony asked Miss Lively to oversee Sony's cut of the film, which they then selected for distribution and was a resounding success. So that might all be true, but I'd like to see, what did the focus groups have to say? Did they decide that this little $12 million movie was worth pleasing Ryan Reynolds because they have a lot of money tied up in him? We'll have to see. Carrie says, I will share it when you get to the 50 to 75% point in this suit. Receipt will drop and I will share it then, Dave. Okay, please do. All right. Shall we get into this? 236 people in the chat. Just keep reminding people, hit the like button. It helps us. I want to share, God bless Popcorn Planet. He's getting like 10,000 views per live stream. So I don't say that out of jealousy. It just goes to show, and again, he's got a massive following. And I'd love to go on his channel sometime, but it just goes to show the appetite for this content. This is a big story. Stir Crazy said she has the cast because they're thinking about their future. And normally I would say that sounds so conspiratorial, but I've worked in Hollywood for a long time and people are pretty desperate. I don't blame them. It's just a dog eat dog world out there. Shall we get into it? How about this for a teaser? Page 105. This is just what I was loving. This is Justin Baldoni in the basement at his movie premiere waiting for Blake Lively to leave so his friends and family can go upstairs. This photo is damning. But again, this isn't defamation, you know what I mean? And so I'm going to do my best to read what they have to say. There'll be a time and a place for like cross-examining it all. I'll share my opinions. And there will be some evidence I'm going to glaze over because we've already covered it. Jess says, I've read the entire thing and it's insane. I can't believe she's now pulling the Darvo card. Her team must be scrambling. Yeah, I mean, Darvo, that's what Laura Owens pulled on us, right? Or that's her gameplay is like, play the victim all the time. Stir Crazy said Andy blew up with the Depp case. Yeah, he's got an interesting story, to say the least. No babies in this lawsuit, Shannon, yet, at least. All right, so we have basically Wayfarer Studios is Justin Baldoni he's the plaintiff against defendant Blake Lively. Do I have Law & Order music? I used to have Law & Order music I would play. It's been a while, but I kind of feel like we need Law & Order music. I might not have it. It might be gone. Not. Ladies and gentlemen, in the case of plaintiff Justin Baldoni versus defendant Blake Lively, this is Gossip Girl v. Jane the Virgin, presented by a guy who looks like Budget Dax Shepard. Okay, so, or whatever you want to call me. Bloated Bradley Cooper. Plaintiff's Wayfarer Studios. And again, I might just call it Justin and Blake. Okay. Justin Blake, individual, the PR people, Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel, they're the PR people, bring their claims for damages against Blakey, an individual, Ryan, an individual, Leslie Sloan, PR, an individual, Envision PR, a New York corp, and allege as follows. Introduction. The following is not a story plaintiffs ever wished to tell. Unfortunately, defendant Blake Lively has unequivocally left them with no choice, not only to set the record straight in response to Lively's accusations, but also to put the spotlight on the parts of Hollywood that they have dedicated their careers to being the antithesis of. That task was always going to be an uphill battle. They never imagined they would encounter it to this degree. Had Lively chosen to merely ride out the self-inflicted press catastrophe she faced in August of 2024, the public would likely have moved on and never known the truth about her. They would have never known that she deliberately and systematically robbed plaintiffs Justin Baldoni and Wayfair Studios of their movie. No one except the parties involved would have known that she used threats and extortion to relegate the colleagues she once highly praised to a basement to sit out their own premiere. While she enjoyed the spotlight of a premiere and after party that was ultimately co-financed by both Wayfair and Sony. She would have gotten away with these things and more because Baldoni, focused entirely on seeing the film succeed, would have held his tongue as he had through the year and a half that Lively tormented him, his family, and his partners. Now, to his credit, he did hold his tongue until now. And by the way, if anyone wants to, I've got I'm trying to get a hold of the journalist that interviewed Blake and called Blake out. Her name, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Kirsty Fla. And there she is right there. So if anyone sends her a DM, tell her she should do Dave Neal's show, The Rush Hour. I'm gonna send. I shot her a message. She's the journalist who shared that viral clip from Blake and how poorly it went. And now she was accused of working in cahoots with Justin Baldoni's team. And she basically said, I didn't have to work with Justin Baldoni's team. Like, she was just mean to me, you know. The journalist was like, oh, so you're pregnant. And like Blake responded like, so are you, or whatever. And she wasn't, I don't know. So we're going to get into all of that. Lively could not tolerate her public tainted image for even a moment, and further could not accept that it was entirely of her own making. She needed a scapegoat, and rather than admit and take accountability for her own mishaps, she chose to blame plaintiffs in a malicious and unforgivably public manner. When she and Reynolds could not force Baldoni and Wayfair to read a statement she and her representatives prepared, extorting them to take accountability in defense of Lively's actions, she lay in wait for months, preparing to publicly attack Baldoni by falsely claiming that he had sexually harassed her. What's interesting is he's suing her, but she's also suing him for sexual harassment. So she may prove that he sexually harassed her, yet to be seen. The same falsified stories she had calculatingly devised and used throughout the production of this film in order to take control were now being used publicly to destroy Justin and plaintiffs. If someone is using the Me Too movement for their own benefit and wasn't quote-unquote Me Too'd, that's a horrible thing. I'm saving space to find the truth out because I don't know. Lively stole Wayfair's movie, hijacked Wayfair's premiere, destroyed plaintiff's personal and professional reputation and livelihood, and aimed to drive plaintiff out of business entirely. It further appears that Lively worked for months with the equally powerful New York Times to prepare a false and damaging narrative to deploy against plaintiff. Not surprisingly, Lively prepared an administrative complaint with the Civil Rights Department in California in an attempt to use the litigation privilege to shield her behind-the-scenes conspiracy with the New York Times. But upon information and belief, the complaint was filed only after defendants spent months feeding falsehoods to the New York Times, intending that they be disseminated to damage plaintiff. Blake Lively delivered the complaint to plaintiffs over the Christmas holiday, and rather than promptly file a lawsuit, Lively, on information and belief, leaked the typically private complaint to the public, utilizing the New York Times as conduit for her revenge. This complaint, and upon information and belief, the false information delivered to the New York Times before the complaint was filed, was rife with lies and doctored evidence. Lively then waited 11 days to file suit against plaintiffs, in what seemed to be a desperate move after the public questioned why she had never filed a civil lawsuit. On information and belief, Lively never intended to file a civil lawsuit, which would have triggered plaintiff's right to discovery, including obtaining evidence and deposing Lively under oath. By the time Lively actually filed a lawsuit against plaintiff, the damage to plaintiffs was done by virtue of Lively's months of colluding with the New York Times on a false and malicious narrative, unshielded by any privilege. Make no mistake, these actions were deliberate. Plaintiffs now have no choice but to fight back, armed only with the truth and the mountain of concrete evidence, and also a billionaire, disproving Lively's allegations. Heartbreakingly, a film that Baldoni envisioned years ago would honor the survivors of DV by telling their story, with the lofty goal of making a positive impact in the world, has now been overshadowed beyond recognition solely as a result of Lively's actions and cruelty. Lively wields immense power as one of the world's best-known celebrities. In 2024, she used that power to seize control of the film It Ends With Us, produced and co-financed by Plaintiff and directed by Justin Baldoni, who also portrayed the lead, Ryle. She set out to destroy Plaintiff's livelihoods and businesses if they did not bend to her incessant demands, and when they refused to give way, she did exactly that, accusing them of foul and reprehensible misconduct. Wayfarer was blindsided when Blake, upon the conclusion of the industry strikes, refused to return to production, absent the company's agreement to her non-negotiable protections for return to production. The return to production demands that insinuated misconduct had occurred during filming, which, as evidence will establish, did not. Wayfarer was equally blindsided when Lively leveraged this document, essentially signed under duress, to seize control of the film, ultimately getting her own cut of the film and a coveted PGA mark, and, at her command, ousting Baldoni from all marketing and promotional efforts, with many of the cast members and the author, all of whom he, until then, had long-standing positive relationships with. Lively's exclusion of Baldoni from the promotion of the film backfired, as she chose to callously promote her hair care and alcohol beverage product rather than bring attention to survivors of domestic violence. The entire premise of the film. Baldoni, now prohibited from attending events or taking photos with Lively and the cast, promoted the film as he had always intended, ever since he first began the process of making the film years ago. Let's slide this over here. I'm going to open this up a little bit. There you go. When Lively faced significant public backlash from what was often referred to as her tone-deaf and insensitive press tour of the film, she doubled down on her false and misleading accusations against Justin. She seemed determined to make Justin the real-life villain in her story. This sounds such like Laura Owens, doesn't it? Again, this is just their narration. We'll see what the evidence shows. Her publicist, Leslie Sloan, went so far as to propagate malicious stories portraying Baldoni as a predator, a term Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, also used to describe Justin when he called Justin's own agent. Modern society justly reviles harassers and abusers, and Lively knew full well that making those allegations would be a career death sentence for Plaintiff, especially given that Baldoni has lived his private and public life as an impassioned advocate for gender equality and healthy masculinity. She did not expect, however, that plaintiffs would be able to meet those allegations with concrete documentary evidence, disproving her claims and demonstrating that they, not Lively, were the targets of a calculated and vitriolic smear campaign. That evidence, including in part herein, is the basis for plaintiffs' claims against defendants for their extortion, defamation, and further wrongdoings. There it is, folks. Listen, if I'm ever working in a movie that requires intimacy coordinators and the such, I'm wearing a body cam. And again, I don't think most people make this stuff up, but just in the off chance, there was somebody I was going to interview last year. I don't want to tell you who, but it was going to be such a batshit crazy interview that I was prepared, and it was also going to be in a hotel room, that I was prepared to keep multiple cameras rolling just in the off chance somewhere down the line, years later, I was accused of anything. Because, and I hate to say it, that's kind of, whenever you're in a he said, she said situation, or he said, without proper proof, there'll always be that speculation from a sinister kind of motive where someone goes, oh, maybe the person's right. So anyway, just my own opinion. All right. The film was the hotly anticipated adaptation of a worldwide best-selling book by Colleen Hoover, and starring in it as Lily. Lively stood to enhance her already considerable star power. She was not content merely to headline one of the year's biggest movies. Instead, apparently driven by overweening ambition and a need for control, Lively eventually leveraged her power as a wealthy celebrity to wrest the reins from her co-star and film's director Baldoni, insisting on total control over every aspect of the film she could get her hands on, from wardrobe to marketing strategy to music, even creating her own cut of the film. In an eerily meeting with Baldoni, Lively foreshadowed what was to come, stating, "I'm afraid you have too much power," referencing Baldoni's dual role as producer and director. This statement made an early impact on Baldoni, who felt compelled to reassure her the relationship would be collaborative and went above and beyond to make it so. This was not an invitation to sideline him and his producing partners. Not only did Lively's power play cost numerous people their jobs, but at every turn, her wrong-headed creative decisions reflected her fundamental lack of understanding of the book the film was based on. This came as no surprise to her worried colleagues, given that even well into production, Lively had not even read the book. After rereading the book, which had 150 pages to build their relationship, we have combined scenes to heighten the stakes for Ryle in pursuit of Lily, utilizing humor and his desire to sleep with her. While I understand Blake's reasons for not wanting to read the book does a very good job in getting in Lily's mind. So she had reasons for not wanting to read it. Whenever anyone says, oh my gosh, the book's so much better than the movie, you have to understand, a screenplay, 1 page per minute, like if you have a screenplay, usually if it's 100 pages, it'll be about 100 minutes. That's how it works. So in a book, you might have a 400-page book. You can't make a 400-page movie. So a lot of times movies have to leave stuff out that books don't. Lively's disastrous marketing efforts and tone-deaf press interviews and appearances backfired and led to widespread criticism of Lively's promotional approach to the film's highly sensitive focus on domestic violence. Past videos of Lively resurfaced online, videos that appeared to solidify public perception that Lively was an insensitive mean girl who cared more about peddling her products than acknowledging the DV survivor community. Social media commenters quickly pointed out that her tie-in of her alcohol beverages was in particularly poor taste, given the WHO estimates 55% of DV incidents are linked to alcohol. Unbelievably, Lively made this harmful and irresponsible message worse by naming a drink at her premiere after-party, Ryle You Wait. Yikes. I didn't know that. After the character who committed DV in the film. Spoiler, the suggestion that Wayfair caused the online backlash against her is absurd given the evidence of her own insensitivity. Now, in her complaint against him, you do see that they were ready to have bad PR about her, and then they're going to argue, we never needed it. So it might be that Blake doesn't believe that people could actually not like her, but as far as people go, she's no Lindsay Lohan, she's no Amy Adams, or there's Lady Gaga. There's just certain people that are just liked. She's never been that way. Jose said Justin Baldoni has proven facts. Blake says you need to believe me. Well, and again, we'll see if anything comes out in court that we don't know about. You know what I mean? By the way, should I lean back and okay? I'm going to try to do this in a way where I stay in frame. Sadly, the backlash could have been avoided had she not refused to meet with the film's DV partner organization, nomore.org, as Baldoni had offered. Even a brief visit to their website or a simple online search would have readily uncovered this and other information on the topic of DV. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni, whom Lively herself had ensured was excluded from participating in her marketing efforts, was safeguarded from this backlash as he focused on amplifying the voices of those affected by DV, as originally intended when he reached out to author Colleen Hoover 5 years earlier, and documented by his partnership with nomore.org, dating back to 2022. Baldoni's sincere efforts were well received, even more so in contrast with Lively's campaign to downplay the premise of the film and sell hair care and alcohol products. Lively, enraged that her plans were foiled and armed with proof of alleged harassment in the form of a 17-point list of demands she had required plaintiffs to sign just months earlier, focused her rage on Justin, blaming him for the consequences of her own missteps. Meanwhile, Stephanie Jones, founder of JonesWorks, Wayfair's and Baldoni's PR firm, was embroiled in a personal and professional crisis. Her increasingly erratic behavior had driven away not only high-profile clients, but also her right-hand woman plaintiff, Jennifer Abel, who oversaw the JonesWorks Los Angeles office. Jones' behavior grew more and more bizarre as she lashed out at loyal clients like Wayfair in rage-filled rants and veered away from professional experience and strategy when making critical decisions affecting JonesWorks clients. After a final outburst against Wayfair in which she outright refused to comply with their direct instructions, Wayfair had no choice but to cut ties with Jones and JonesWorks rather than leave their public image in the hands of what appeared to be an out-of-control Jones, whose actions were not aligned with Wayfair and Baldoni's worldview and wishes. Jones was filled with impotent rage at Wayfair and at Abel, who a month before had announced her decision to leave JonesWorks to form her own company. Jones saw an opportunity for revenge. She took it. Wow. So they're claiming this PR firm was out for revenge. That's getting a little conspiratorial on the surface to go, oh, sure, the PR firm doesn't like you too. A little conspiratorial, but hey, we'll see what they have to say. On On information and belief, Jones, Lively, Reynolds, and Leslie Sloan, Lively's publicist, and others concocted a plan whereby Jones would seize Abel's phone upon her departure and mine it for messages that, stripped of context, could be used to concoct a false narrative that the disastrous press coverage of Lively's callous and opportunistic comments and the public reaction to those comments were not Lively's fault at all, but the result of a calculated, though in reality non-existent, smear campaign by Baldoni and his team. On information. Hold on, I need chapstick for this, folks. Got this cute little chapstick. I love chapstick. On information, should I make a chapstick line? The rush hour chappy rush. What's a good chapstick brand name for me? Power Chapper. Chap my stick. Unchap it. Unchap my stick. On information and belief, Jones' role in the scheme accounts for her conspicuous absence from Lively's retelling of events. Plaintiffs are informed and believe that defendants have been working in concert since at least August 21st, 2024, when Sloan boasted to Nathan that she had seen her text and that Nathan would soon be sued. Though Lively claimed Baldoni was the one smearing her, the reality is that it was Lively and her team who carefully planned and implemented a vile smear campaign against Baldoni and Wayfair to deflect attention and blame for Lively's disastrous misjudgments. I just can't understand why Blake would do that if it wasn't true, because it just puts way more attention on this. Like that's the part where I'm confused. Like why would Blake do all this public stuff if she was kind of, if she kind of had already won, you know what I mean? Lively would recast herself as the long-suffering martyr by portraying Baldoni as her persecutor, the mastermind behind a smear campaign that evidence will show did not exist. Defendant Sloan of Vision PR was all too willing to carry out this strategy, especially once armed with ammunition by Jones, who was bent on revenge against her ex-employee and former client. Shortly after the film's premiere and the public backlash against Lively, together with her husband, defendant Ryan Reynolds, demanded through their talent agency, which represented Wayfair and Baldoni, that plaintiffs publicly apologize for so-called mistakes during production in order to deflect the avalanche of negative media coverage of Lively. Reynolds and Lively drafted a statement and demanded that Baldoni, Wayfair, and Heath issue that statement, requiring them to apologize to the public and fall on their sword, despite having done nothing wrong, or else the gloves would come off. Multiple WME executives acknowledged that in their experience, Lively and Reynolds' threats were not to be taken lightly, though admitting to false, vague, and unspecific mistakes would be tantamount to admitting to career-ending misconduct. Baldoni refused to apologize for sins they never committed. They took a stand knowing full well that Lively and Reynolds would bring the full might of their celebrity artillery against them, and that is precisely what happened. Yeah, never apologize under duress and never apologize for something you're not sorry for, unless you're arguing with your wife, and then just apologize. It's better to just, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I can't believe that. I did not intend to do X, Y, and Z. Anyhow. The Junk Farm says an emoji can't be rendered by forensic software. Can you elaborate on that for me? Let me know what you mean by that. Because I have no idea what that means, but it sounds like it sounds interesting. Lively working... Did I already cover that? Lively, working with her husband, her publicist Jones, and others, set out on a campaign to tar and feather plaintiffs in the press. They conspired and worked in concert with New York Times to put out a blockbuster news report as devastating as it was false, and it was blockbuster. They advanced a fabricated narrative in the press that plaintiffs had sexually harassed Lively, then embarked on a calculated and malicious smear campaign to destroy her reputation as retaliation for daring to complain about the harassment. Defendants laid their trap carefully over a period of months before springing it all at once on the eve of the winter holidays. Just as plainly, they knew full well that their claims were entirely baseless because their own wrongfully obtained evidence proved that neither the alleged harassment nor the accompanying smear campaign against Lively ever existed. Yet Lively moved forward with her plan with ruthless precision, doubling down in the face of abundant evidence, casting doubt on the veracity of her story. Lively even went so far as to serve her lawsuit on the Los Angeles-based defendant as they evacuated their homes in the midst of devastating fires engulfing their city. On a day when defendants were gathering their kids and pets, preparing go bags, and monitoring evacuation orders while fearing for their homes, Lively, from the safety of her penthouse in New York, deployed process servers in the midst of these troubling times. Oh, they're invoking the wildfires. Boo-doo-doo. Do-do-do. Okay. Okay, I'm just trying to catch up with you guys. The interview she posted is heavily... At bottom, this is not a case about celebrities sniping at each other in the press. This is a case about two of the most powerful stars in the world deploying their enormous power to steal an entire film right out of the hands of its director and production studio. Then when Lively and Reynolds' efforts failed to win them the acclaim they believe they so richly deserve, they turned their fury on their chosen scapegoat, tolerating a year and a half of their behavior while remaining polite and professional at every turn, offered Baldoni and Wayfair no protection. But by the way, that is a good point. If the software they use to file things doesn't render an emoji, that is a good defense. If that is the case, to say, look, we shared with you what was said, but the tone was not there. Now they knew, regardless of what went through the system, they knew the tone was sarcasm, so they knew that it would be perceived in the way that it was. We'll get into all that. Baldoni and Wayfair purchased the rights to It Ends With Us. Baldoni co-founded Wayfair in 2019, dedicated to being a different kind of studio, one that produced world-class entertainment driven by a powerful vision for change. Baldoni, whose film career was dedicated to producing and directing meaningful films to have a positive impact on the world, was deeply moved when he read it. Okay. Baldoni's feature film directorial debut, 5 Feet Apart, was based on a young woman, Claire Wineland, who lived with cystic fibrosis and courageously documented her plight on YouTube. So they talk about, some of the things he had going on. In pursuit of that same vision, It Ends With Us was published in 2016. I'm going to barrel through this. The novel exploded thanks to social media phenomenon Book Talk. Many fans expressed how important the book was to them. So then she told Justin, "You are the right person to make this movie." So they demonstrated the commitment to doing that. It took a long time to get it made. And then here's, the receipts. Again, we're not going to go through everything, but here's the receipts from Justin to Colleen, the author of the book, talking about the backstory, the timestamps. So all the way dating back to 2019. It's a book that they've been trying to get made. So again, I'm not going to share every instance of the proof here because there's a hell of a lot of stuff to get into. Sarah with a $5 Canadian Super Chat donation towards seeing August and getting that dopamine hit from his sweet face. Appreciate you, Dave. Yeah, it looks like we're at 4 Super Chats. So at 10 Super Chats, we'll bring August in. Let's continue. So they talk about making the movie. Again, this is all just the receipts of the correspondence, which we're not going to get into right now. Soon after, Wayfair partnered with Sony to co-finance and distribute the film. The agreement included, at Wayfair and Baldoni's insistence, that the provision was a deal breaker, a requirement that 1% of the film's proceeds be donated in support of survivors of domestic abuse. That 1% was ultimately earmarked for the organization No More, with which Baldoni had sought to partner with as early as September 2022. As they began making the film, Justin felt an immense responsibility to do justice not only to the story of protagonists, but to the stories of survivors. All right, but none of that, that all can be true, and he still could have sexually harassed her, right? So none of that's really... In casting Blake Lively, a world-renowned actor with talent and charisma. Yeah, she was in that movie where she was stranded on a rock and her only friend was a seagull while a shark attacked her. No, but she's an A-lister. They entrusted her with that vision to bring Lily to life. Although Wayfair learned that Lively had a reputation for being difficult to work with, Baldoni at the time was not dissuaded and found her to be genuine. Oh boy! Listen to your gut. During pre-pro, Baldoni and Lively began a promising and close collaboration. On New Year's Eve 2022, Lively agreed to take the lead role of Lily Bloom. As part of the subsequent negotiation, Lively was granted an executive producer credit, a title often given to talent of her stature. She requested a producer credit, but Wayfair and Sony demurred, given that such a title would not accurately reflect the role she was asked to play in the production. Wayfair did not request nor require that Lively contribute to the film in any capacity beyond her role as actor and EP. So executive producers just for show. In the beginning, it appeared that Baldoni and Lively would have a positive, collaborative creative partnership. Baldoni and Lively worked closely in the early days of the film, trading ideas about filling key roles in the film's cast and crew. Their working relationship grew close. Baldoni and Lively shared stories and pictures from their lives, commiserated over family illness, and exchanged jokes and memes. Baldoni offered concern and support when Lively faced family health concerns. They texted almost daily, and a friendly banter established a comfortable dynamic that, under typical circumstances, would have made working together easy. Lively felt comfortable enough to make silly jokes, redirecting a sweet compliment Baldoni gave her. "So Justin's in blue. Well played." She said, "I feel the same way. It's such a good feeling to get work done that we're proud of and to do it together. It just clicks when we find it, and that's just as rewarding as filming it or editing it or marketing it or releasing it. This is all storytelling. This is why we do it. Thank you for your collaboration. I'm really proud of what we're doing." He says, "I like sentimental Blake." And then Blake said, "Never met her." All right, so Blake's funny. Listen, I'm telling you this, in some ways, in some ways, I feel like Blake is misunderstood because I think she tries to be funny but doesn't quite nail it. And so sometimes I think that comes off like an a-hole. So I'm not saying that's every case, but I'm going to try to be fair. There are times when Blake tries to be funny, and I just don't think, I think people, sometimes an a-hole is just an a-hole, and sometimes an a-hole is somebody who thinks what they're doing is funny. I know I can come off like an a-hole sometimes, and I'm like, what? I thought we were having fun. I thought we were making laughs. Auntie said, "Footnotes, Dave. Footnotes matter." All right, I'm going to try. You do you, I'll do me. I got 179 pages to get through. Justin said, "I also like a-hole Blake." And Blake says, "I've met her. So have my suppositories." Whoa, okay. Yeah. Okay. And so that's a visual. This was the nature of their relationship, which made too much info, which made Lively's later allegations all the more baffling. Lively begins asserting control over almost immediately. Almost immediately, Blake began inserting herself into the production process in intrusive ways well beyond the scope of her contractual entitlements. Lively began to insist on creative control over her character's wardrobe. While lead actors are sometimes granted approval over their character's general look, they generally do not receive full control over wardrobe without input from the director or producers. What may seem like an innocuous request can in fact have monumental impact on a film production. You can't just have some red, thing when you're not supposed to. Boy, we're already at 8 super chats. All right, let's when I get to 10 super chats, I'll read them and I'll bring the baby in for just a quick few minutes while we read this. He's going to try to attack me. Ignoring the director's vision for her character and disposing of the weeks of effort and creativity spent by the wardrobe team on shopping and carefully crafted wardrobe. All right, so she said again, and for some of this we've already covered. Blake Lively oversteps her bounds in the wardrobe department, insisting that her character had money and could afford $5,000 shoes, even though she was supposed to be a small business owner. So Blake and her had a rift there. She refused to participate in fittings at the production office. She wanted them sent to her penthouse, so they would have to spend time and money shipping them to her penthouse. Blake's a diva. What do you want? She's an A-lister. And honestly, I don't blame her. If you're an A-lister and you don't want to go to a fitting and you have kids, I get it. You got a nice penthouse, send it over to you. I get that. But, if it all comes out to the final product, be an A-lister, be a diva, be whatever, but if the wardrobe starts to change the vision for the movie, then that's where the problem is. In an effort to maintain harmony at the start of their working relationship and to further avoid delays caused by wardrobe, Baldoni and the studio reluctantly ceded full control to Lively. All right, this concession quickly proved regrettable. Give a mouse a cookie. I want a cookie so bad. I'm down 9 pounds. I just haven't had sugar in so long. Give me a cookie. I want a cookie. On the first day of principal photography, paparazzi captured published photos of her character wearing hand-picked wardrobe. Images were reported as unflattering, and they sparked backlash from Sony following the events. And again, I'm only going through this because we already covered all of this conversation. So, falsely characterized the exchange as a lengthy outburst, delaying the film and causing the crew to wait for hours while Justin cried in Lively's dressing room. So she made it seem as though he was crying in her dressing room. On information and belief, Lively circulated this false account to the New York Times with the intention and result that it be widely published. The conversation did not take hours in any length. This is why you need body cam, or at least audio. and any length of time it took was not because Baldoni cried for hours. In truth, rather than take heed of the concerns of the film's distributor and director, Lively took this time to, among other things, suggest to Baldoni that he was being gaslit by Sony, Heath, and the other producers, and try to convince him to let her continue to take the helm. Baldoni did briefly become emotional during the conversation, but only in response to what he believed was a genuine compliment from Blake, praising his work as a director and actor. In hindsight, this was part and parcel of the ongoing pattern of manipulation and gaslighting by Lively, intended to continue to allow her autonomy over her wardrobe. Notably, Lively herself has voiced insecurities about the public perception of her casting as Lily Boom. Lily, as described as a 23-year-old young woman and recent college graduate within the first few pages of the book, which Lively would have known had she read the book before production, despite having admitting to ordering a copy months before, which remarkably she ordered only after she had already committed to the role. Nevertheless, when Lively learned that Lily was a decade plus younger than herself in the book, Lively asked that author Colleen Hoover explained in her public casting announcement that they decided to age up the book's character for the film. Hoover didn't put the statement out in the way Lively requested. Lively was not happy. Lazy Sunday says he had a microphone going at one part. She's toast. No, and trust me, they do have, a lot of times when you're mic'd up, they'll keep you mic'd up like for the full day, and they will record. You will be like, because it's, recording audio is very easy. It's not as high quality. It's not a big of a file. So yeah, a lot of times they do have a lot of this audio. Lively later distorted this conversation in support of her baseless harassment allegations, alleging that Baldoni made inappropriate comments on her appearance. In reality, Baldoni, the film's director, was relaying the distributor's concerns and the widespread social media criticism regarding the wardrobe's failure to meet audience expectations, a sentiment Baldoni shared. This incident is just one of the many examples of Lively's troubling pattern of manipulation and lies. As another example, early in the pre-production stage, Lively sent Baldoni a long text describing how directors never permitted her to write scenes for the movie she acted in, nor gave her writing credit, even making her hand-scribbled her suggestions for lines so that they could not be traced to her. Lively boasted that she had even written for her husband's movies. Then Lively asked if she could take a pass at writing the rooftop scene in It Ends With Us, in which the characters Ryle and Lily first meet. This pivotal scene, much beloved by book fans, was critical for setting the tone for the movie. So Baldoni was reluctant to allow an actor, rather than a union screenwriter, to rewrite this key scene. But Baldoni felt the need to allow Lively to rewrite the scene and agreed to take a look at what she put together. Yeah, give her a shot. The draft of the rooftop scene that Lively sent Baldoni dramatically differed from what had been written originally. Baldoni was hesitant about many of the changes, but thanked Lively for her passion and diplomatically told her that the scene would likely end up being somewhere between the original version and Lively's version. Seemingly stung by Baldoni's exceedingly mild resistance, Lively did not respond and went silent for multiple days. Later, she confirmed in a text message below that Baldoni's response of course didn't feel great for me or another mega celebrity friend in Ryan Reynolds. To have my, I guess maybe, is that supposed to be Taylor Swift? To have my passion praised instead of my specific contribution. Lively was referring to an earlier meeting where Lively summoned Baldoni to her New York penthouse, where Baldoni was greeted by Ryan Reynolds, who launched into enthusiastic praise for Lively's version of the scene. Hours later, as the meeting was ending, a famously close friend of Reynolds and Lively walked into the room and similarly began praising Lively's script. Baldoni understood the subtext. He needed to comply with Lively's direction for the script. Is that Taylor Swift? By the way, I love Taylor. Don't put Taylor in the middle of this. Aunt Taylor doesn't need to be a part of this, okay? Hugo said the long Blake texts are so embarrassing. All right, we'll get through it. You guys don't read ahead. Later, Baldoni felt, I do appreciate the comment section right here. Oh, by the way, we hit 10 super chats. All right, let's go to super chats real quick. Sarah said with $5 says, remember to smash that like button. Be sure you are subscribed. Share the stream. Join Dave's Patreon. Check out Dave on Instagram, X, TikTok, Facebook, and Discord. Oh yeah, I hear the Discord's a lot of fun. Tiff Chat with $2. How bizarre. How bizarre. Do. King Bob, $2. 3 more. Sarah says, yay. Thank you guys. Who did I miss? Let's see that adorable baby. Hey honey. Text Tasha. Let me text her. Hold on, let me just tell her. Bring the baby in, Tasha. We hit the super chat goal. Can you bring the boy king in? All right. So we'll wait. We'll wait for him to come in. Sarah Dawn with the $5 donation towards Seeing August. Other Sarah, $5. My 8-month-old baby girl wants to see her internet buddy August. She loves watching Dave. And I think I got Jenna before. This is going to be a long one. So thank you guys all so much. Let me make sure I unstar these. You can already tell I'm starting to lose my voice. So I'm just going to try to make sure that I speak with as soft a voice as possible, because I still have another podcast to make today. Yeah, we have a lot of content out today. That Rachel Kirkconnell story is crazy too. That's a different story. We got a lot going on. Oh, he's asleep. Just fell asleep. I can bring him in after his nap, but it'll probably be 2 hours. Oh no. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we'll probably still be here. All right. He's going to come in. I'm holding. Okay. Yeah. When. Guys, sorry, he just fell asleep. Send a photo. All right, I'm going to get Tasha to send a photo. The baby's sleeping. Should I get a live sleep cam? Sorry, he just passed out. Later, Baldoni felt obliged to text Lively to say that he had liked her pages and hadn't needed Reynolds and her mega celebrity friend to pressure him. Lively responded that the two were her dragons. So Baldoni felt obliged to text Blake to say that he had liked her pages. That's where it's like, okay, this is starting to get a little cookie. It's starting to get a bit cookie. Blake said this. They, Ryan and the mega celebrity, I'm assuming it's Taylor Swift, also know I'm not always good at making sure I'm seen and utilized for fear of threatening egos or fear of affecting the ease of the process. They don't give a shit about that, and because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. So I guess I have to stop worrying about people liking me. I don't know. Emoji. I feel bad for her. She feels insecure. The message could not have been clearer. Baldoni was not just dealing with Lively, he was also facing Lively's dragons, two of the most influential and wealthy celebrities in the world who were not afraid to make things very difficult for him. Okay, I think that's a stretch. I see her as saying Ryan Reynolds and and Taylor Swift. I'm assuming it's Taylor Swift. Ryan and Taylor are good at speaking up for themselves. I'm not. So here's what Blake said. They got the metadata. If you send me the FDX, I'll work when I can steal moments. And yes, of course, please send to Christy. We're all on the same team with the same goal. Justin says, great. Also was working on the rooftop scene today. I really love what you did. It really does help a lot. Makes it so much more fun and interesting. And I would have felt that way without Ryan and Taylor. You really are a talent across the board. Oh, it is Taylor Swift. Yay! Tay-tay! Teardrops on my guitar. What a song, right? Right? What's your favorite Taylor Swift song? I don't know. But I thought that was a great text by him. Hey, I loved it without it. Winky, winky. She said, that's very appreciated. It means a lot. I'm deeply inspired by the film we're going to make outside of the success of this book. We have such an opportunity to not only surprise people who love the book, but reach an even bigger audience by making an undeniably dynamic and also commercial film. The moment that excited me most the other day was when you said you're not funny. You are going to kill that rooftop scene. You know it, I'm sure. Even though it was said in playful self-deprecation that we all participate in, it made me think of the process as a whole. Please know, I trust that on the day you've got me. I trust that on the day you've got me. And I hope that you trust that I've got you if you want it. We're in this together, and we are two of this most determined people I know. We also have very high bars set for ourselves. To collaborate with that type of partner is a gift that neither of us will squander because we both care too much about the result and also the experience. I have no motives except for you to win. As a director, as an actor, as a studio, as a writer. If you win, I win. If you win, our movie wins. We are aligned, and I will bring everything I have to this. At this point, I really feel like I understand Blake. And I feel like her need for control is going to come from a place of insecurity. It doesn't make it right, but that's what I feel right now. I feel like Blake needing to control the edit of this film is because she's going to feel like she's not being seen in the way she wants to be seen. And I think we do. Stick with me on this. I think we do need to have some grace for how women are treated in Hollywood and know that even if she is a beautiful woman who has a ton of success, she has to deal with a very judgy universe. Like, leave room for that. Oh, hold on. We just got a photo sent to us here. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to see if I can. Oh, shoot. Hold on. Let me see if I can get started and open this. I wasn't prepared to do this. Here he is. Okay. All right, folks. Here it is. There it is. Now, I will get you a live version of the baby, okay? But just evidence that my wife wasn't lying to me. That is a sleeping child. Oh, hold on. That is a sleeping child right there. Okay, so anyhow, you can hear ultrasounds and so much random stuff. I'm glad I didn't just drop any nude photos of me or of anybody. Okay, so the baby's sleeping. We will get him here. Mark my word. As for Redacted in Ryan and Redacted, I'm guessing Taylor Swift. I'm the luckiest mother effer on the planet to have them as my dance moms. They are embarrassingly effusive. That said, they're also my most trusted partners and the people I go to first with anything creative I touch. And I'm the person they each go to first. That reciprocal creativity and support has been one of my life's greatest and most fulfilling gifts. When they loved and signed off on the pages, it felt good to send them to you. And by the way, they asked what you thought specifically after it. They checked in so many times. I told them that you laughed a bunch and said it's probably a blend, but you appreciate my passion so much, which of course didn't feel great for me or them to have my passion be praised instead of any specific contributions, or even just that you didn't like the pages, which was also fine. Yeah, it feels like a relationship, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like a relationship where you just like, it's like their love languages are not on the same page. Which is okay. Until you start suing each other and stuff like that. Carrie said, here's my theory. I think Blake and Ryan's marriage is falling apart. This is why they are so defensive, because how dare Blake and JB embarrass Ryan? That's an interesting theory. Yeah, that's an interesting theory. I have no idea, personally. And by the way, Mint Mobile has been a sponsor of my podcast, so Ryan Reynolds, don't fire me. Although they're a very small sponsor. So I think they wanted you and me to see how they felt about the work, because they've been by my side for far too many experiences where I've been overlooked. I spoke to you about this when we first met. They've watched me handwrite scripts because the director is too afraid to send the FDX file, yet he scans and has someone hand type all 120 pages of my pencil rewrites. They've watched me be hired as a writer and paid a significant fee for it, but on the condition that I never ask for credit, which I could give a shit about. It's more the principle of the dynamics at play. They've watched the other side of it too, where I'm told that signing on that I'm wanted as a true collaborator, but once we get to work, I'm really just wanted as a yes man, audience and actor. And look, I get it. The more you get into acting, the more you realize memorizing someone else's lines is not as creatively fulfilling as creating that art yourself. So I get what she's saying. But, you got to make your own movie in that case. Both Ryan and Taylor have established themselves as absolute titans as writers and storytellers outside of their primary gig, just singing or acting, or Taylor just directing. I'm so lucky to have them as creative barometers. Yeah, because Taylor Swift directs her music videos, but also to have them as the people who prop me up and make sure I'm seen for all I can do. And I hope Taylor Swift can we get Taylor Swift deposed? Can Taylor Swift do a deposition where she also sings? Can she sing us a song? Teardrops on our guitar. Tim McGraw. I'm Tim McGraw. Because they what's that song? Silly Boy? Is that a song? Because they know firsthand all I contribute. They also know I'm not always as good at making sure I'm seen and utilized for fear of threatening egos or fear of affecting the ease of the process. They don't give a shit about that. And because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. So I guess I have to stop worrying about people like me. Well, I think this is a good lesson for what's powerful in Hollywood. And it's not always the actor, it's the creator who writes. Same thing with comedy. Same thing with music. It's like the writer, no, don't get me wrong, the performer, someone with great vocals is great, but to have true control in Hollywood or in music is to write. If you ever get around to watching Game of Thrones, you'll appreciate that I'm Khaleesi, and like her, I happen to have a few dragons. For better or worse, but usually for better, because my dragons also protect those I fight for. So really, we all benefit from those gorgeous monsters of mine. You will too, I can promise you. I don't see this as threatening. PMD said not her project. Yeah, I can see Blake wanting to live up to her partnership where she does things where she's seen as more than an actor. But again, even if it's not her project, I still don't blame Blake for shooting the shots. Did I just get a downvote for that? Fuck that. I'm trying to be very impartial here. And I think I'm doing a damn good job of that. Look, you can't you can't read these things, which are meant to be completely one-sided, and not think from a devil's advocate. So we're going to get into evidence. We're going to get into all of that. But, I think it's just important to just go, okay, look, you have to understand everyone operates with their best intentions, right? Everyone's trying their best with the information they have. It might be that Blake is super insecure. Absolutely. Now, everything that comes forward, if she coerced him and all that, is wrong. But you'd be remiss. Thank you for the 3 more downvotes. I appreciate you guys. You'd be remiss if you didn't have the nuance to understand, why people tick. Okay. Difficult proved to be a gross understatement. Though Baldoni initially invited Lively to make changes to the script, Lively began altering the script daily. The frequency of Lively's revisions alarmed the producers, directors, and studio, who anticipated that her interference would persist every day of the shoot and disrupt the carefully planned production schedule. Each shooting day was intricately scheduled long in advance, and Lively's constant changes placed significant stress on the production crew, not to mention financial strain. The producer typed, "Are you listening to this? She's fixing the script. I think Ange's advice was actually wrong. Blake is now directing the movie. This is bad." James Heath, "I'm listening. Talking through it is better than not. Seeing what's possible, as long as any decision is done with approval." Producer, "Not for something that was already intimately planned. This will be every day of the shoot." James, "I'm not sure what can be done, honestly, at this point in terms of Blake." More than a year later, during a red carpet interview at the New York film premiere, Lively stated, "The iconic rooftop scene, my husband actually wrote it. Nobody knows that but you now." This startling revelation directly contradicts Lively's previous insistence that she had written the scene, and certainly casts Reynolds' high praise for the rewritten scene in a different light. The film's credited screenwriter, when asked about the claim that Reynolds had written the scene, graciously responded, so if I'm being told that Ryan wrote that, then great, how wonderful. She went on to acknowledge, "There were a few little flourishes that I did not write, and if those flourishes came from Ryan, I think that's wonderful." This was also the first time that plaintiffs learned that Reynolds, who had no formal role whatsoever in the film's production, had made unauthorized changes to the script in secret. Baldoni, equally blindsided by this news, which he discovered in real time during a recorded interview with Access Hollywood, reacted also by praising Reynolds so as not to harm Lively, Reynolds, who apparently wrote the scene, and possibly others, during the Writers Guild strike. Interesting. So you would be if you write during a strike, even if you're a SAG member, you don't cross the picket line when unions are supposed to protect each other, right? Power in numbers. So that would be a scab move. Tiffany said, "I still think she sucks." Listen, folks, let me say this one more time. You can think she sucks. You can think she's a bitch. You can think all these other things, but just remember, everyone's got an origin story. And I think it takes a lot of grace to look at someone who's beautiful, a millionaire, best friends with Taylor Swift, and still go, man, it must be tough for her to look at herself in the mirror and be so insecure. This is just like, I'll take that argument to the grave. Again, you can also have grace for Justin here if everything that they argue is true. Lively's where I stand right now, and I'll continue to give you guys updates, I have no clue, not a lawyer, how this will play out. I remember in Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp, I didn't give my opinion till I really went through the whole thing, and I still found it hard for him to win because it's very hard to win defamation. So it's very hard to win. A lot of these things are just to save face, but this is going to be interesting. Lively's remarks about Reynolds' purported contribution to the script raised eyebrows sky high at Sony, who told Wayfair that they certainly needed some clarity on public comments made by Ryan Reynolds potentially contributing written services for the rooftop scene. Yeah, that was a big sheesh. From Redacted, so here's from Sony. "We certainly need some clarity on public comments made about Ryan Reynolds potentially contributing writing services for the rooftop scene. Can you provide information? Your email was shared with me by Redacted in order to address this issue. We're not aware of any writing services rendered by Ryan Reynolds." So they don't believe he actually wrote it. Now, this brings into question why Blake said, this could change your opinion and be like, why the hell did he write it? My guess is it still stems from Blake going home and going, dang, I hate this script, I'm stuck with it, and Ryan helping her write a script she's more happy with. It doesn't make it right. It's not right at all. That doesn't make it right. Still during the pre-production phase, Lively and Reynolds raised entirely false allegations of fat shaming against Justin, an accusation that, as evidence will show, was categorically false. Justin had been introduced to trainer Don, who became Baldoni's personal trainer, by Lively. Don directed Justin's preparation for the film role, including his nutrition and exercise, making special accommodation for Justin's back injury. Baldoni even paid to receive Don's meal delivery service. So here's Don. He's got meal delivery. He's got a drop box. The jumps are to be low intensity. He's got different workouts. Can't wait to check it out. Boom. Privately, Justin reached out to Don as his personal trainer to ask what Lively weighed so that he could train his back muscle in preparation for a lift scene. It was important to avoid injury not only to Baldoni, who suffered from lifelong back injuries, multiple bulging disc, and chronic pain, but also to Lively if the lift could not be completed successfully and safely. Notwithstanding Lively's recent attempts to deny the existence of any such scene, it was only nixed at her insistence after having been planned and rehearsed. All right, so she says the scene never even existed. Now he says, the scene existed, you took it out. And she claimed that was fat shaming because he wanted to know how much she weighed because he was worried about her look on camera. I think both could have been true. I think he could have been worried about how much she weighed. And I also think, like, to a degree, not as an actor, but as a producer, you know, those are concerns that people have, you know. I understand that it's pretty toxic, but like, that's what they do, right? They check in on you. And also for continuity purposes. You know, you take a year off from filming during the pandemic and you come back, or not the pandemic, whatever the strike that they had. It's like, you know, there's continuity issues there. Twisted Life said, I can't imagine changing up a script in the middle of a movie. That would throw everyone off. It actually happens quite often. Not entire scripts, but scenes are reshot and things are replayed. Sometimes after the movie's been in post-production, you go, you know what? We don't quite understand. Like, something doesn't become obvious, so they add inserts, so they add a scene to get from point A to point B. So that does happen. Kelso's Mama with $5 says, why is Ryan Reynolds involved in the movie? I can't bring my husband to work. This is partly Justin's fault to allow them to push him over. Well, I mean, you say partly Justin's fault, but you're working with the main actor of the movie. You have to keep them happy. It is very delicate to direct in this way. Very delicate. So I understand what you're saying, but also like understand the dynamic of like, imagine halfway through, she says, F this movie. She can walk away from it. Yeah, you could sue her, but also like they probably wouldn't sue her because there's other, you know, she's got that huge equity, Ryan Reynolds, who's like, what are they going to do? Sue her? And then Sony has beef with Ryan Reynolds? You don't want that. It's not worth it. So the best thing to do is try to keep her happy, which has been obviously, like I said, give a mouse a cookie. The next morning, Justin was summoned to the penthouse by Lively and greeted by Reynolds, who swore at Baldoni and accused him of fat-shaming his wife. How dare you effing ask about my wife's weight? What's wrong with you? The confrontation from Reynolds and Lively was so aggressive that Justin felt he had no choice but to offer repeated and completely unwarranted apologies for what was a good faith and reasonable question to ask of his trainer. Reynolds demanded Baldoni remove the scene entirely. Lively refused to perform the lift scene in the end, even after it was rehearsed with a stunt double. In her own complaint, Lively flat out lies about the absence of this scene by claiming the scene wasn't in the film. The only reason the scene wasn't in the film is because Lively and Reynolds ensured it was taken out of the film. All right, that'll be easy to prove, right? Accommodating Lively, and again, it's all about finding out what you can prove. Accommodating Lively, Baldoni's rewrote the scene with Lively, despite the fact that for creative reasons, the scene was important to him as a storyteller and director. In fact, Lively had earlier expressed insecurity about her postpartum figure, and Baldoni made every attempt to genuinely reassure her. In this exchange, she stated as her director that anything you feel insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you feel comfortable. I just don't want you to stress out about your body. It's the last thing you need. When he later tried to do just that, Lively responded with allegations of harassment, followed by a lawsuit. Blake said this on February 17th, 2023, kicking ass, but it's still a ton of work with not a ton of time. What's the chance we can do body scenes at the end of the schedule? He says, I'm sure you are. Honestly, there's 1 billion moving parts to schedule right now. I just turned in the rewrite, and so they are hard at work. So much of it comes down to locations and the other cast availability. So to be really honest, I have no clue. I want you to know you will look amazing. Anything you are insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I just don't want you to stress about your body. It's the last thing you need. As soon as I have a rough schedule that's even remotely accurate, I'll share, and I'll make sure the team keeps this in mind as well. For anyone who's never been naked on camera, postpartum, you have to empathize with Blake here. You have to empathize with the challenges of getting back into quote unquote game shape when you're supposed to play a much younger woman and you just had a baby. You got to. I'm demanding of my audience to give Blake, in this instance, some empathy. Be fair. Be fair. Because, and let me tell you this, when you're fair on things like this, you gain trust when you're critical on what's to come. Do we agree on that? That's for the new people that are in the chat, first time here. We agree on that. The best way to be critical of the critical things or to be fair when you should be fair, which is that Blake is saying the sex scenes, can we shoot those at the end of the movie? That way I have an extra month to continue to get in shape. PMD says, yeah, but he is being nice to her. Sure. She's making reasonable requests as an A-list actor, and he's being nice to say, look, there's a lot of moving parts. Sometimes you can only get this location on this date. Like I've produced smaller projects and you have to understand the chain of events. Sometimes you might shoot a movie and it takes 30 days to shoot it. And on day one, you shoot that sex scene. You don't shoot the movie chronologically. Stir Crazy says, Dave, he was being good to her. I know he was. I'm talking to you, the audience. I'm talking to you, the audience. Be kind in these moments so that there is room to criticize and people just don't go, oh, you hate Blake. No, because so far I'm seeing reasonable conversations. So I understand, but those that are saying, Dave, keep reading, you don't understand. We'll get there one at a time. Hugo said, we can empathize, but that doesn't make anything JB did wrong. I'm not saying anything JB did was wrong. I'm just using this place that we are right now as a point to take a break to say it's not all villains. Okay? Let's move on. Blake said, thank you for your voice memo. It is deeply appreciated. You are everything you promised to be as a collaborator. Thank you. I know my job here, and this piece is a big part my job here. We both understand the assignment as actors in the roles, but also as producers and also as marketers. We understand artistically, yes, but we get what we need to do in all aspects for this movie commercially. As woke as we both are and work to be, this movie requires a certain aesthetic. It's part of the job that we both excitedly signed up for. I don't shy away from it being because it's not problematic. It's the assignment like when someone is about to start an athletic event. It's their job to be in top shape. My husband and I both look at certain roles as athletic events, and this is one of them. It's not always a part of the job, but on this one it is, and that's great. As much as I'd like to not think about it, that would be irresponsible and also impossible because it's unrealistic to not acknowledge what I need to do. This is my job here, and I meet my responsibilities with extreme work ethic. I look for solutions to achieve high goals instead of lowering my goals. We all win when we're each firing at our highest capabilities, and you and I both are and continue to. I just need as much time as possible because I just had my fourth baby. I understand that you'll never personally know all the nuances of the challenges unless you lived this physical moment in time I'm in with this physical road ahead. So having your understanding and support to help me pull this off is critical and very, very much appreciated. Not just in my experience now, but also healing from experiences past. So thank you. We're going to kill it. And be so fit, they have to Lola us to look less banging. I don't know what Lola means. But either way, I empathize with that. Lively delivered an ultimatum. If Baldoni could not get on board with her work methods, he had 2 weeks to recast her. And also, there's got to be like the feelings of getting your body back into shape, plus the hormonal response to having a baby. You just got to imagine. Ideally, she probably shouldn't have worked, right? She doesn't need it for the money. It was a good opportunity, but it's like, ideally, it's like she's putting herself in a situation, and a lot of high achievers do this, where you're putting yourself in a situation you can't possibly attain. Like, she's got the work ethic and the drive to be this physical thing she wants to be, but like she just had her fourth baby. Timmy the dog says, I've had 4 babies too. We get it. Timmy the dog, have you had 4 babies and then shot a sex scene playing a 23-year-old? Come on. Alyssa said, fair convo on both sides. Implicit in this ultimatum was a thing. You know what I mean? It's like, and again, I'm not trying to argue with anybody because I got a lot to read here, but it's like, you got to give the benefit of the doubt so far that these are pretty normal negotiations that go on. This is how it works. Implicit, this is not someone who returns to work at Staples and isn't, back at quote unquote game shape. This is an actor who's going to be scrutinized for her body. She's her whole life been scrutinized for her body. by the internet, and it's going to happen after her 4th child. There's some truly interesting comments happening. Implicit is the ultimatum was a threat to destroy Baldoni's reputation and career. Implicit in this ultimatum was a threat. As Lively well knew, Baldoni had worked hard throughout his career to earn and deserve a reputation based on his passion and advocacy for women's rights, a reputation she would later exploit and weaponize. If Lively were to back out of the film, especially based on accusations of fat-shaming, Baldoni's reputation and life's work would be left in tatters. He had no choice but to bow to Lively and Reynolds' demands. Concerns about Lively's undue influence over the film began to grow even before filming started. Producer, he cannot let her have opinions on everything. Blake? Or she's going to be co-directing this film. Yeah, we were talking about that a lot yesterday. Exactly. This is why everyone is starting to lose it. We've been talking about the same thing for months. Yep, it's starting to get resolved. Producer, no, it's not. Poor James Heath is all confident. No, they're about to resolve it. Bro, there's a $400 million lawsuit. It didn't get resolved. This was the first time Lively openly moved to seize control of the film from Baldoni, but it would not be the last. It ends with us. Filming begins as Lively builds her takeover strategy. Principal photography began for the film in early May 2023. On set, Lively continued to maintain what later appeared to be a facade of a close, caring relationship with Baldoni, even as she continued to make escalating demands for creative control. By the time production began, Lively and Baldoni had worked closely together for months, and Lively expressed warm gratitude for her collaboration with Baldoni on the eve of filming. This note means so much to me. I'm excited to start tomorrow, but it's only one piece of the journey. We started months ago, and I'm grateful for all we've built so far. Thank you for caring so much and for putting every bit of you into showing it. You have given so much of your time to fight for great, and that hasn't gone unappreciated or unseen for a moment. Let's do this. From Blake to Justin, delivered. All right, so they got all the metadata there. How do they get this metadata to look like this? It's pretty nice. Throughout the first filming period, Lively continued to share her open and unguarded thoughts of on life and her character. She talked about wardrobe choices to make her character much sexier. Shannon said we wouldn't know about any HR complaints because they wouldn't be released yet, which is true. A source did say, which we'll find out if this is true, that the only HR complaint was over a hiring issue involving a sound guy who was claiming ageism. Nothing to do with that. But again, there could be something we don't know about. Will show you both ways, but beanie is much sexier. It's the look. Feels TV without, especially with a crop top in the snow. It justifies the rest of the skin, but also is a girl I would check out walking down the street because it washes the effort off the rest of the look. From Blake. Lively continued to express her warm appreciation and respect for Baldoni as filming continued, even as she acknowledged she could be difficult and critical of others, using the kind of language she herself would have alleged to be inappropriate. Justin said, I'm not going to tell you that you were amazing because you teased me for being so sentimental, but you were amazing today. Blake said, thank you. I do appreciate it. I'm just a ball buster, but it means a lot to me. I care a great deal and always want to deliver. You were terrific. I'm proud of everything we did today, but really every day. Maybe I'm like Blake Lively in the sense that I don't like taking compliments well, but I really want them. So he's saying she would ball bust him and not take the compliments well when he was giving them to her. And she's saying, no, I really appreciate it. All right. So this goes to show that so far things look quite okay. Justin said, loved, thank you. I do appreciate it. I'm just a ball buster. Thank you. Lively's use of the word ball buster would certainly have made it on her 17-point list had it been Baldoni who said it. That's a stretch. Ball busters. You don't even think of testicles when you think of ball buster, do you? When I say someone's a ball buster, I don't actually think of like someone's smacking my, you know what I mean? That doesn't feel like a harassing term, ball buster. Maybe you agree or disagree. Lively's intimate comfort with Baldoni continued as filming progressed. In June of 2023, after the alleged harassment and uncomfortable situations allegedly occurred, she even invited Justin Baldoni to her trailer to rehearse while pumping breast milk. I'm just pumping in my trailer if you want to work out our lines. By the way, we have 629 people in the chat with 167 upvotes. So if you could hit the like button, it'll help get us to more people, more subscribers, and we can continue to cover this more effectively. I would like to cover this like sort of full time as news breaks about this, on the Twice Daily Rush Hour podcast. So make sure to hit subscribe on this video. Lively was so close and comfortable with Baldoni that she freely breastfed in front of him during meetings. She took photos of him holding and soothing her crying baby in her penthouse. They laughed deliriously together during late-night writing sessions. All of these events took place after the alleged harassment. Lively's accusations seemed to come out of the blue. She even knew his tea order. Out of respect for Lively's privacy, this complaint does not include any images of her family. Well, that's kind. And so they have photos of Justin holding her baby, which, by the way, if he was harassing, would be quite scary and intimidating to have. But I'm assuming my assumption so far is that he wasn't harassing her. That's where I'm at. But hey, we're going to wait to see what evidence she shares. En route to you, can I get you anything? So from Justin, no, all good. Thank you, though. I'm getting you a hot matcha, and do you know what Brandon likes? So there is Blake Lively getting him coffee. Lively, that's nice, right? Lively herself set the tone for personal discussions on set, including what language was acceptable. For example, on one occasion while filming a restaurant scene, she sat on the floor in painfully expensive shoes while discussing with a group of male cast and crew how sexy her shoes were. This is evidenced in film footage captured between scene takes. Lively had no issue using the word sexy herself, but apparently took note both times Baldoni said the word in her presence. Listen, that's tough, right? You can call yourself sexy and not want your boss to call you sexy, right? It's a stretch. I don't think sexy is, if you were in accounting and your boss called you sexy, that's harassment. But on a movie where your boss is trying to gas you up for your confidence and how you look, you're a character in that movie. Oh yeah, no, you look sexy. This is going to be great. I don't think that's a problem whatsoever. Though she was loose and relaxed in her speech on set, she was increasingly stringent in the demands she posed on the production. She rewrote her own dialogue constantly, took it upon herself to make unilateral changes to other characters' lines, effectively rewriting the script day by day. This pattern of domineering interference caused upending interruptions to the production process, leading to entirely unnecessary stress, chaos, and delay. It is well documented on film footage how frequently she requested changes, and how at every turn Baldoni took her thoughts and, out of fear of repercussions from Lively and her allies, consistently tried to accommodate them. During labor strikes likely moved to seize power, on May 2nd, 2023, the Writers Guild of America went on strike. Production of the film halted temporarily on June 14th due to Writers Guild picketing. The next day, the production was notified that the WGA had agreed not to picket their set, allowing production to continue. But Lively was already gone and refused to return to the production immediately. Wayfarer reworked the shooting schedule at great expense to film the scenes with the younger version of the characters instead of footage requiring Lively. The SAG-AFTRA strike soon followed, beginning on July 14th. To make the most of time during the strike, Baldoni began editing the footage that had been captured to date, starting the director's process of turning footage into film. Lively expressed excitement over returning to shoot in the fall in New York, making no mention of any discomfort or harassment that would be brought up only later, after months of being apart on the day the strikes ended. Both before and during the strikes, Lively's eager involvement in the production took on a mere insistent and manipulative tone, as she asked for access to the dailies and early cuts of the scene, both inappropriate and unorthodox requests. Hey, would you mind giving me access to dailies? And by the way, dailies is like, here's what we shot today. It's like a very loosely edited way of taking a look at things. I'm trying to read some of your comments. And I'm curious which takes you liked of the scenes you showed. My manager flew out to visit set and leaves tomorrow. He heard all about it from Warren, and I'd love to show him. I appreciate you may be too slammed right now to make this happen. Maybe someone else can facilitate. Thanks so much. Again, I don't think it's rare for an A-list actor to want to show their manager dailies. I don't think that's rare. They're invested in a project. Dailies refers to raw footage of what was filmed that day, including the many takes not shared with the cast. Dailies is not necessarily every take. It can change in different films, but the dailies is a way for the director to see what was shot the day before, what looked good, what they're working with in all of that, because what you see on camera is very different than what you see in real life. The focal length of the lens changes. Am I shooting a scene with a 16 millimeter camera or 16 millimeter lens, which will create a much wider shot for distortion? Or are we shooting with a longer lens in a more voyeuristic way? What are we doing? The art of how this ends up looking on camera is so different than what you might, think you're shooting in the real life. So, hey, I hope you and your family are well. This is from Blake. I watched the selects you sent. So great. I was so happy and energized. Such solid work from everyone on and off camera. It was really cool to see. We were working so quickly. There was never the time to look back. So it was nice to revisit from an audience's perspective. Please let me know who to reach out to get access to the full gallery of dailies. I'm so looking forward to seeing all we have in the can. And of course, any scenes you cut together, I'd love to see. Hope you're having a good summer and hopefully a good edit. Will your assembly be done soon? So this is where we're starting to see Blake needing a little bit more. So first he's like, all right, he sends her some selects. A select is a couple from the full batch. And now she's saying, I want the full gallery. Now you're getting into like, okay. And by the way, the reason why this is bad for Blake is that you guys ever take a bunch of photos with your friends and then you pick the best photo because you look good in it, but the photo itself sucks. That's what can happen, is that you get in your own head. You go, my voice sounded better here, or my tits looked better there. And then you start doing that and it has no service to the film. So there's a reason why Justin and any director would want to be like, I don't want to show you too much. Wayfarer, Baldoni, and another producer on the film strategized about how to respond to Lively, which became common practice so as not to trigger backlash from Lively. The text exchange below demonstrates adamant objections to giving Lively the dailies. Not only was it an inappropriate overreach, but there was a very real concern that a simple ask, such as rewriting a couple of scenes, would turn into a complete takeover, rewriting the script. They rightly feared that giving her the dailies could turn into her demanding the whole movie, which is exactly what ultimately happened. We got ourselves a control issue here. Looks like we got 2 more super chats. Thank you guys so much. $2 from Chris says, great job on the 9 pounds. You're so disciplined, Dave. Oh, thanks so much. I have to be. I'm a junkie. Kelso's $5 says, why is Ryan Reynolds involved in the movie? I can't bring my husband to work. Okay, we already got that. Thank you so much. And by the way, I mean, to the 15 downvotes, like, I don't know what world you live in, but I try to be as objective as possible. So if I see a part that I feel like is a stretch, I'm going to call it how I see it. All right. That's what we do over here. We will develop way more equity and believability if we call it as it is and not just make the whole thing, well, she's an absolute monster. We might get there. Give it time. Give it time. That's kind of my whole belief in 2025 is like, slow down. Slow down. We'll get there. Justin said, hey, would you mind giving me access to daily? Oh, she said, I'm curious which takes you like, the scenes you showed Warren, my manager. So we got that. Producer says, I'd say no, but check her contract first. James says, I was waiting for blank to respond first. It's an absolute no for me as well, respectfully. Not sure best way to respond being how delicate it is. I think you can either not respond until tomorrow. So the producers are saying, don't give her the dailies. I think, or say you need to talk to the team or just say, no, you're not comfortable with it. Maybe we can let this be a Sony decision and you can respond with that for now. Justin says, thank you. Spoke to Redacted 2. I think I'm just going to say yes and send her a playlist of a bunch of good takes from different scenes that last for 3 or 4 days. Redacted said no, LOL. Producer says, we all said no and you're going to send? Uh-oh. So now the producers are saying, Justin, what are you doing? He said, no, she liked the idea of a playlist. No to access to all dailies. I wasn't clear in text. Producer, okay, copy. Oh, I feel bad for Justin here. He's got the producers saying like, put your foot down, but don't blame Justin. He knows what he's dealing with. He knows she will walk. Very thin ice. Basically send her a playlist of what I showed her agent. And then if or when she responds and says, can you send me everything? That's what I'll say. I'm not comfortable with that as I haven't even seen everything. Redacted believes that she will then start to edit the movie and tell me which takes to use if she has access to everything. Producer said, yes, I agree with that. This is so fascinating. Also, this is exactly how the writing process started. She asked if it was okay if she could take a pass at some dialogue tweaks on the rooftop scenes. Just talked to Blake. She's in very good spirits and seems happy about this. Very nice conversation. Producer said, good. Look, I get it. You get a dopamine rush when you see yourself on camera and what works and what doesn't, but you just got to be careful. It's a very delicate thing. P. Mahone with $2 says, send a super chat. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. Thank you, guys. Very kind. After consulting internally as to how to respond, Baldoni politely pushed back, explaining that it was much too early in the editing process to share much footage. Hi, sorry for a slow response. Yes, family is good. Brutal being away for so long and happy we're finally together. Lots happening. All good things overall. Had to hire new editors who I adore. They are going through everything now. I'm so happy you felt energized by what you saw. Your performance is really, really beautiful. Stunning, actually. Regarding dailies, obviously, I want your input. That's why I sent the 5-hour playlist. But at this point, it's too early for me to share all the dailies. I start my cut in early August, given the new editors, and still going through the rest myself. Figuring out our shooting plan as I have to cut and combine and find ways to scale down from budget. Once I am physically in the edit and have touched scenes myself, I'd love to share with you. I hope you enjoy this time off with your family. Talk soon. Great response by Justin. Very diplomatic. He's coming off extremely diplomatic here. Sometimes directors are, can be very much like power trippy. He's not coming off that way. He's working through his thoughts with the producers, and then he's presenting a very diplomatic resolution. At that point, Blake Lively, and by the way, when juries see this so far, I think they're going to side with Justin so far, just by what they've seen. At that point, Lively reluctantly paid nominal lip service to the notion that Baldoni, the film's director, was entitled to the time and space needed for his directorial cut, but continued to push. I don't want to infringe on your time with your cut, of course. Don't feel the need to send me cut scenes. I was just excited to see. I believe her. You can be excited to see. Baldoni shared limited scenes with Lively, feeling uncomfortable all the while, yet he already knew that he had to bow to Lively's demands in order to get out the film and its powerful message. Finally, he put his foot down, sending Lively one final scene and then telling her he would not be sending any more cuts until he was finished his editorial process. Sorry, back-to-back meetings, all good. Love the excitement, and I'm excited to show you when time is right. Not just me. Redacted and James have access to dailies, but not assemblies or cuts. Happy birthday, Blake. Coincidentally, today is the last day of my edit as we are closing the room until we shoot again. It's been wildly successful, and I'm so happy. You are so fantastic in the film. I'm sending you over one of my favorite sections. I won't be posting or sending anything to anyone after this, but I'm excited to show you more in person when we come back. Please watch before Sunday, as all Pix accounts get shut down on Monday and until we are back up. I believe that's like probably the cloud account that hosts all the information. Very expensive stuff, these servers. Oh my gosh. The Writers Guild strike ended on September 27th, and the SAG-AFTRA strike ended on November 9th. Months before, Baldoni had made Lively's representation aware that they would continue pre-production in order to hit the ground running when the strike ends. Lively and her lawyers had been busy devising other plans during the strike. That same day that the SAG-AFTRA strike ended, Baldoni, the studios, and producers were eager to resume production. Instead, they were met with an email from Blake's lawyer, who sent Wayfair an unsettling and unexpected 17-point list of non-negotiable conditions that must be met before Blake would return to work. The stunning list was drafted for the apparent purpose of insinuating or outright claiming that Baldoni, Heath, and others had engaged in sexual inappropriate conduct during filming. Nothing could be further from the truth. So, at this point, we're going to check out her accusations, and we'll have to see. Her defense will have to be whether or not she has any receipts to these accusations. With the tentative resolution on the SAG strike, we are writing to address how to handle a return to the set of It Ends With Us. It is no surprise to the film's producers that the experience of shooting the film has been deeply concerning on many levels. The complaints of our client and others have been repeatedly conveyed and well documented throughout pre-production. Okay, well, we'll have to see what those complaints are. While we reserve all legal rights at this stage, our client is willing to forego a more formal HR process in favor of everyone returning to work and finishing the film as long as the set is safe moving forward. In order for a client to feel safe returning to the production, we are attaching a list of protections that will need to be guaranteed and observed by the film's producers. If the production is unwilling to accept or uphold these protections, our client is prepared to pursue her full legal rights and remedies. This letter is not intended to constitute a full statement of all facts, and circumstances related to this matter is not intended to be, nor should be, construed as a waiver, releasing, or relinquishing of any of our client's rights or remedies, legal or equitable, all of which are hereby expressly reserved. I gotta take a cough drop. I'm not sick. I'm just I could feel the voice going. I've been up till 2 a.m. for the last 2 weeks every night. Now that I've got the podcast twice a day with the video. So again, not complaining, but my voice is all I have. 1,100 comments. Amazing stuff, folks. I really appreciate everyone's conversation in the chat. So it would have to be extremely premeditated to make this statement knowing you could use it as leverage in the future to have the film edited. I'm not saying that didn't happen. That could have happened. This isn't their first go around, but you would have to be extremely premeditated. And again, we'll see. Wayfair and Sony attempted to revise the document to make it factually accurate, being that the representation of set culture was inaccurate, and sent comments through Wayfair's attorney, who incorporated Sony's notes. But Lively's counsel's response made it clear that the list was not open for negotiation. The list we provided was not intended as a starting point for negotiation. Rather, it is a set of protections that needs to be in place in order for our client to return to work. Please let us know as soon as possible whether Wayfair will agree to accept all the protections included in our original communication. Number 11 and 12 with the following additional clarifications. Number 14, in addition to the stunt double, Wayfair is to engage Blake approved body doubles for both characters for all simulated sex scenes. This requirement applies to any future filming as well as to any footage that has already been shot. We can limit this requirement to scenes involving nudity, partial nudity, and or simulated sex. And again, well, let's keep going. It was clear that Wayfair would have to sign this document as is, despite the falsity of its insinuations. The alternative was to lose millions of dollars, cost hundreds of people their jobs after they had been out of work for months, and destroy their relationship with Sony. Nonetheless, the demand themselves were agreeable. Indeed, some were already in place. Well, technically, they would have to reshoot it, which would give people more jobs, but it would definitely cost the producers a lot of money. This doesn't happen often where somebody walks from a set. To illustrate the distorted and downright fictional basis for the 17-point list of demands, each of them is addressed in turn below. All right, let's address let's address this. Kimberly said it was premeditated. First day back, and she didn't get what she wanted before the strike. Yeah, maybe. That's what they're going to have to prove, right? This is going to be my only warning to Will Rube that we don't have time for that. Okay. We don't have time for that. First and final warning. We got to kind of keep the comment section, in a good place. Lively demanded that an intimacy coordinator be present at all times when Lively was on set. In fact, an intimacy coordinator had already been engaged during the first half of the production. So Wayfair took no issue with this request itself, despite both Lively and her attorney knowingly insinuating there was not one. Nearly 2 months before filming began, Baldoni met with the intimacy coordinator in early April of 2023, more than 6 weeks before production commenced. Lively was aware, as Baldoni had informed her in writing, on or about April 6th. Lively's attorney was also aware, as documented on May 8th, emails between her and Wayfair's attorney, within which Wayfair provides her the intimacy coordinator's approved nudity rider, followed by written confirmation of said approval. So there's the nudity rider, the receipts. No surprises there. You don't make a film in today's world, a SAG union film, without having, all of these things set. SAG has a representative that comes up to set, the managers, everyone. This is standard stuff. So do you have written approval from the intimacy coordinator for this that you can share? And they go back and forth. Although the presence of an intimacy coordinator is not a Screen Actors Guild rule, but rather a recommendation, Baldoni was eager to engage one from the start to ensure talent, himself included, felt safe during intimate scenes. It was also important to him that the intimacy coordinator be a woman to help craft sex scenes that would speak to the mostly female audience of the book, be written for the female gaze, a fact Lively later mocked in both her complaint. Given both Lively and Reynolds' first-hand knowledge of these facts, Lively's insistence in her November 9th return to production demands on the constant presence of an intimacy coordinator was baffling, however, because Wayfair had already engaged in an intimacy coordinator and had no issue with the request. And given the request came with the threat that Lively would not come back to work after months of filming and planning, Wayfair acquiesced. This acquiescence, given with the written caveat that Wayfair disagreed with the characterizations, was later used by Lively to falsely suggest an acknowledgement that there had not been an intimacy coordinator at all, limiting review of intimate scene footage to those with essential business reasons. So this part, I've been in the room where this happens. It used to be that if you had a sex scene, anyone could walk by, and it's really gross because anyone who's delivering a package to set could just see this go down. And sets, the crew is the majority men. I'd say about 75% of a crew is men, give or take, in my experience. Sometimes 90%. And in the modern world, they actually put walls up. They get canvas and put walls up around it and say only the director, the sound person, the camera operator, and anyone approved can be on set. It's a very stripped down thing to protect people so that you don't get gratuitous, you don't get to see the sex scene until it's approved in its final cut. Given that this was already standard practice in the film industry and in practice on the film set, Wayfair readily agreed to this demand, though without any reason to believe that the demand was made in response to any inappropriate conduct. Despite having filmed for over a month and despite having been provided a nudity rider and the opportunity to negotiate, finalize, and sign, Lively had never asked for a closed set. The set should be closed. That should be standard. You shouldn't have to ask for it. However, production had always adhered to this and had no problem agreeing to this demand. I don't think you should even have to ask for a closed set. It should just be assumed, but yeah. For clarity, when I say closed set, that's what I mean, that it's only essential. For clarity, no intimacy scenes were even shot prior to the November 9th return to production demands. Therefore, under no circumstance did Lively shoot intimate scenes without a nudity rider. As suggested in her complaint, production did not violate any SAG rules. The one simulated nude scene filmed prior to the strike break and on November 9th, return to work demands was a scene that Lively wrote, knew of in advance, and directed the action for, and she never requested a nudity writer or intimacy coordinator for that scene. All right, this all seems like stuff that's highly provable. I wouldn't imagine they would have argued this if they didn't have the video footage to back it up. This demand, as written, suggests nude or intimate scenes were filmed with non-essential personnel present. Later in her complaint, Lively alleges that during a scene, the birthing scene, she was mostly nude with her legs spread wide in stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia, and that there were non-essential persons present. This allegation is knowingly false. To begin with, to describe Lively as mostly nude and naked from below the chest down is dishonest. Lively was wearing black briefs and a pregnancy suit that covered her midsection, and her top was covered by a hospital gown. Her legal complaint deliberately suggests she was wearing a small piece of nude fabric glued around her genitalia by stating this is generally what female actors use to provide some minimal intimacy without disturbing the shot, leaving the reader to believe Lively was only wearing this small fabric. Lively was aware of this birthing scene as she was heavily involved in writing the script and gave creative input for the specific scene. Moreover, film footage clearly demonstrates that the scene was not chaotic, as she alleges, and only essential individuals, film crew, talent, were present for the scene and doing their jobs. Importantly, Lively knowingly and falsely alleges that the film's financier was present during these scenes and insinuates he was watching her nude, which he had no desire to do. He was not even on set during the filming of that scene. He arrived later, merely stopping by for a brief moment amid his busy business schedule, and was present during the filming of a scene. Just taking a second here. It's a lot to talk this much. Contrary, I just swallowed a cough drop. Contrary to Lively's knowingly false claims, it was Lively who refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator to plan out the scenes, putting Baldoni in the awkward position of meeting alone. So we've already covered this. She says, I feel good. I can meet her when we start. So he wanted her to meet beforehand. She said, no, I'm okay. We've already covered that previously, so same screen grabs. Just wanted to tell you about this. Says Justin, seems she doesn't want to meet intimacy coordinator until we start. Female producer said that's fine if she doesn't want to meet her now. You'll just have to walk her through what you and intimacy coordinator are thinking. As a result, many sex scenes were not written with simultaneous collaboration and input from both Lively and the intimacy coordinator, as Baldoni had long intended. The female gaze that Lively distorted in her complaint and on information and beliefs circulated to the New York Times for its publication weeks before filing her complaint with the court. In the end, Lively rejected all of the intimacy coordinator's proposals to rewrite the scenes herself. Most egregiously, Lively later used these circumstances created entirely by her to accuse Baldoni of insisting Lively do uncomfortable or gratuitous scenes that were in fact proposed by the intimacy coordinator, and by all accounts very typical acts of any actor performing simulated sex scenes. It's well documented in handwritten notes Baldoni took during meetings with the intimacy coordinator and later read to Lively. Lively, in her recent allegations, misrepresented these ideas as personal, despite the fact that they were workshopping scenes for their characters. Lively's inability to discern the basic premise of the divide between collaborating on a film and personal interactions with her co-star and director is woven throughout her claim of sexual harassment. In support of what Lively positioned as the impetus for these demands, she alleges Baldoni personally added graphic content, including a scene in which Miss Lively was to orgasm on camera. This is false. During a creative meeting which Lively requested to take place in her home, Baldoni read to her his notes from the intimacy coordinator, including a suggestion that Lively's character orgasm during the scene, similar to the book. Lively remarked, "Oh no, I'm too old for that," And Baldoni offered another suggestion instead from his notes from the meeting with the intimacy coordinator. Baldoni then moved on. Lively's I'm too old to orgasm. I love it. Oh, it's funny. That's like a merchandise shirt. I'm too old to orgasm. Oh, hold on. Do we have somebody? Ladies and gentlemen, as promised, with 10 super chats, you would get farmed out for the masses. What might be, I'm too old to orgasm. I just read a line. I'm too old to orgasm. Come over here.
What?
I'm just reading the lines. They were okay. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. The boy awake from his slumber. There he is.
Stay with you for 3 minutes while I get
Yeah, we'll just keep reading. Hi, son. How are you? Do you want to read this court case with me? We're gonna continue reading this court case. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tennessee's cutest boy in the 0 to 3 month division. It's 8-month-old August. Hi, son. You gonna blow me kisses? Want to say hi to everyone out there? All right, we're gonna continue going on. The sun is gonna try to destroy the microphone. Maybe I gotta turn the mic down a little bit. All right, so there it is. Let's. Oh, you got my headphones? Very nice. All right, so we're gonna continue reading this, but I wanted to offer you a reward, and that reward is the cutest baby that's out there. Oh, hey, son. Did you have a nice nap? You had a nice nap? Were you being a good boy? Yeah. Did you go to Starbucks this morning with Daddy? You tell everybody that everyone at Starbucks loves you. He's looking great, right? Isn't he big? Everyone say hi to Augie. He's adorable. Holy cow, he's grown so much. That's how it works, Heather. They grow fast, don't they? He's now he's basically standing on his own. He's looking adorable. And he's always trying to destroy my microphone. Always. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I can give him to play with. I guess I could give him this. Here, do you want this, Augie? Here, take the magnifying glass. He likes things like that. Don't knock yourself out. All right, let's continue reading, right? This is a nice break where mommy can go use the bathroom. Lively's later complaint sheds light on what this point was alluding to in this demand, which at the time was baffling. Upon review of the filmed evidence, are you okay? You just bumped your head? Okay, don't bump your head. Is unequivocally based on a lie. Production was filming a romance montage of Lily and Ryle on their date. One of the producers played music to set the mood so the character could slow dance. Lively, consistently unable to take direction, insisted she really liked the idea of the characters constantly talking because, as she described, she and her husband liked to keep talking and talking and talking. Baldoni, her director and the film's assistant director, who was directing the scene, disagreed. And in an attempt to encourage her to take his direction, Baldoni offered up that he and his wife often just look into each other's eyes silently, to which she responded, like sociopaths, and laughed. Baldoni laughed and shook it off, while Lively once again started talking about how she and her husband can't not talk. Baldoni said, "I think that's cute," and complimented the couple, to which Lively responded, "I think it's more than cute." All right, I don't know. It seems like normal ribbing. You okay? You want to read the next page? Do you want to read the next page? Lively continued arguing and tried to direct him for the scene, while they were supposed to be in character filming the scene. At some point, Heath and another producer, irritated, called Baldoni aside to express they can't capture the intended shot because Lively wouldn't stop talking. He was instructed to somehow get her to stop. While there was you just can't get your lady to stop yapping. You know what I'm talking about, Augie? When your lady says yapping, yapping, yapping. When you go yap, 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 and you go, please stop, don't yap anymore. You know how you get when you just want to talk, talk, talk. You got the hiccups right now? We're waiting for his first teeth to come in. He's a late bloomer on the teeth, right, Augie? As there were, hold on, where are we at? Lila continued arguing and tried to direct him. While there was a brief verbal exchange, Baldoni heeded the instructions of their assistant director, and the producers continued to try to bring them back into character. As they were acting in this montage scene, Lively continued to break character and speak as herself rather than as Lily, which was extremely confusing for Baldoni, who was trying to balance directing the scene within his artistic vision while also acting in character while filming and trying to get Lively to do the same. Lively apologized for the smell of her spray tan and body makeup. Baldoni responded, "It smells good," and continued acting. slow dancing as he believed his character would with his partner, which required some amount of physical touching. Lively took them out of character again and began to joke about Baldoni's nose, which he laughed off and joked in return. Even as Lively joked that he could get plastic surgery, Lively incorrectly alleges that this scene was filmed without sound. Baldoni was wearing a microphone and the entire exchange is captured on camera. Oh no! It's all captured on camera! You got to be careful. You might be mic'd up when you don't know it. Like right now. You're on camera, Augo. Augie on camera. Any suggestion that this scene was filmed in any manner other than pure professionalism by Baldoni is unequivocally countered with actual evidence. Her allegation of harassment is a documented and knowingly fabricated lie. Moreover, it was Lively who engaged in unchoreographed kissing scenes. One scene, again captured on camera, exhibits Blake Lively pulling Baldoni in to kiss her. It is clear Lively was initiating unchoreographed kissing. In one take, she pulled Baldoni in and kissed him once, in another twice, and the number of kisses, entirely initiated by Lively, changed at her whim. Baldoni, as a professional actor who, among other roles, played the lead's love interest in television's Jane the Virgin for 5 years, is like most actors, accustomed to rehearsing or filming scenes multiple times, often with variations, without needing permission while in character. While Lively now takes issue with any innocuous improvisation Baldoni, as Ryle may have allegedly initiated while in character, Baldoni treated their relationship on camera as professional, each playing their part, each doing their job. If no one was supposed to improvise, Baldoni would have no way of knowing based on Lively's own actions. Lively demonstrated again and again that this was a normal and accepted part of filming romantic scenes. Lively also complains that there was inappropriate and improvised kissing during the first period of filming before the strike break. But in fact, the only 2 kissing scenes filmed, and by the way, this is why you don't want to take these things to court, because they have evidence. Everything's on camera. Stop going for the thing. In fact, the only 2 kissing scenes filmed. Here's a kissing scene. The only 2 kissing scenes filmed during the initial filming period were both scenes that included kisses as written in the script. These kissing scenes were not improvised. So her point said no physical touching of Lively, including hugging or comments on her physical appearance, except in connection with the character and her scene work, not as to Lively personally. To be clear, none of the named parties touched Lively when not in character, especially not in the manner suggested. While Blake and Wayfarer clearly agreed that While Baldoni and Wayfarer clearly agreed that coworkers should respect physical space, Lively's constant confusion of references to her character as played by Lively, as opposed to Lively herself, became problematic and interfered with production. You sticking your tongue out at me? This kid's, I'm crying laughing. Stop, guys. Bring in the bobbleheads. Okay, there's the bobbleheads. You got the bobbleheads. All right, where were we? How do I even do this? All right. While Baldoni and Wayfarer clearly agreed that coworkers should respect physical space, Lively's constant confusion of references to her character as played by Lively, as opposed to Lively herself, became problematic and interfered with production. It was caused in large part by Lively's persistent desire to direct and inability to accept direction. For example, her allegation that Baldoni inappropriately called her sexy was in fact a reference to a scene which everyone was wearing onesies, but Lively was covering her onesie with a big coat. Baldoni, her director, asked that she take off the big coat so that her onesie would be visible in the scene. Baldoni said, "It will be hot," as it was 90 degrees in the scene in the small bar with no air conditioning. Lively mischaracterized this in her complaint as Baldoni referring to her personally as hot, using the slang meaning of the term. Given that Lively herself had earlier expressed to him that she wanted her character's wardrobe to be sexier, Baldoni encouraged her to accept direction by saying, "It's sexy," meaning that without the big coat, the wardrobe was sexier, as Lively had said she wanted it to be. Lively took this personally. She was unable to take the direction, later alleging his behavior was inappropriate regarding her self-chosen wardrobe, stating, "That's not what I'm going for." Baldoni, recognizing that she may have taken his direction personally and appeared offended, apologized more than once. Yeah, squeaky wheel gets the grease, folks. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. His statements were immediately followed by his gesture that she had something in her teeth and a request for someone on set to get her a toothpick. This exchange, all of which is captured on camera, demonstrates how ludicrous and deliberately malicious Lively's allegations are. Yeah, this sounds like a lot's misconstrued. And again, we don't know. We're taking their word for it with the assumption that this is all on camera. So if this is all on camera, this will all be in trial, and it will make her look so bad if it was all very reasonable stuff by him, right? This is going to make her look terrible. Why would you ever make all these allegations knowing there would be proof if there is such? While on the one hand, Lively accused Baldoni of making comments about her appearance, on the other, she made derogatory comments about his appearance, telling him he should undergo rhinoplasty, a nose job, something Baldoni has publicly expressed insecurities about and has discussed on an episode of his podcast, Man Enough, exploring the topic of body dysmorphia. Lively's comments about Baldoni's nose is also captured on camera. Baldoni, rather than write down a list of grievances against Lively, brushed it off and moved on with the scene. Baldoni's sincere dedication to what he has repeatedly described as holding himself accountable as a man was being used against him, just as Lively is attempting to do now. To characterize his sensitivity to her personal reaction to his creative direction, which was not only innocuous but well-intended, is malicious. To then share this knowingly false characterization with the New York Times for publication months before filing any formal complaint, then waiting nearly 2 weeks to file the complaint with this court, thus depriving him the opportunity to engage in discovery before the damage is done, is inexcusable. Despite the flawed factual premise underlying Lively's demand, in the face of Lively's refusal to return to work, Wayfair agreed to this condition. Point number 5. Geez, so there's 14 points, and they got a long way to go. Point number 5. No discussion of personal experiences with sex or nudity, including as it relates to conduct with spouses or others. When Baldoni was faced with this demand, he was utterly confused. By the time Lively and Baldoni were developing their intimate scenes together, they had developed a friendly relationship and were communicating often over text messages. Lively felt comfortable expressing herself and appeared to do so freely. She took photos of Baldoni holding and comforting her newborn in her home. Baldoni filmed her uncontrollably laughing with him as they rehearsed late into the evening, often delirious with exhaustion. Nothing about their interactions suggested Lively was uncomfortable around Baldoni. Though confused by this demand and denied the opportunity to revise the return to production demands to make them factually accurate and less misleading, Wayfair had no choice but to sign the document and did so, knowing no such instances had occurred. I got to put this on just to make sure that I can... Hold on, no, don't worry about me. Later, Lively references in her complaint instances that were shockingly mischaracterized, in no way or inappropriate or unprofessional. For example, in response to a proposal from the intimacy coordinator that Baldoni's character Ryle not orgasm after he satisfied Lily, Lively's remarked, "I'd be mortified if that happened to me," personalizing the character's sexual act. Baldoni, following Lively's lead in what he understood to be an attempt to connect with and develop their characters, remarked that those have been some of the most beautiful moments between himself and his wife. They then moved on. In another instance, as Lively and Baldoni were developing their scenes, Lively said, "I don't want it to look like porn," and then offered up that she had never seen porn in her life, a very personal act. Baldoni complimented her and said, "That's wonderful," because unfortunately, he was first exposed to it when he was 10 years old and struggled with an addiction for a period of his life. Hold on. Tasha, we might be losing him. He writes openly about this in both his books, Boys Will Be Human, written for young boys, and Man Enough, written for men, addressing porn as a societal problem. Anyone who knows or has done any research on Baldoni would have knowledge of this, and it can in no way be characterized as inappropriate, especially after opening the door. I am only 58 pages in out of 179, but a lot of times, like, the last 50 pages are like screen grabs and stuff. But I don't know how we're going to finish this. But anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, Tasha Marie Courtney. And by the way, I know you don't want to speak, but you've worked in Gossip Girl. Do you have anything you want to say about your personal? Okay, nothing from Tasha. There she is. Bye, Uggo. Bye. Do you want to read for a page while I go to use the bathroom?
No.
She said no. All right, folks. We're going to continue.
Here's what I'll say. I hope you're giving as much grace to Blake as you're giving to Justin.
Tasha said, "I hope you're giving as much grace to Blake as you are to Justin." Well, I've got 17 downvotes because I've been giving Blake tons of grace, especially the fact that she didn't want to shoot her sex scenes right away because she was still recovering from her 4th baby. I give a lot of grace to that. And people in the comment section said, I've had 4 babies. And I said, did you shoot a sex scene afterwards where the whole internet's going to be scrutinizing your body? So I think I'm man enough, or whatever the term is. All right, let's continue. Yeah, but also she manipulated a ton of stuff and she's going to look horrible because they have video footage of all of this. But I do have grace for her. It's noon. We've been live for, what, 2 hours?
Like powerful men try to intimidate women with lawsuits all the time.
All right, let's continue here. Yeah, trying to be fair. Okay, let's continue. I think we'll go for another half an hour, and then we're going to have to do a part 2. Because this is probably about 6 hours. Okay. Baldoni complimented... did I miss something? Addressing porn as a societal problem. Anyone who knows or has done any research on Baldoni would have a knowledge of this, and it can in no way be characterized as inappropriate, especially after opening the door to the discussion by disclosing something highly personal. At every turn, Baldoni was entrapped. Moreover, Heath, who had nothing to do with this exchange and has never had a porn addiction or even mentioned porn in Lively's presence, was falsely and knowingly lumped into this accusation. Lively continued with an outrageous and knowingly false suggestion that she was shown porn or naked images of Heath's wife on set. This allegation knowingly and maliciously misrepresents an instance when, in connection with the birthing scene, Heath, at the director's request, attempted to show Lively a video that demonstrated the director's vision for the scene. This video, which ultimately was not shown to Lively, even though she stated she'd like to see it later as she was eating, is by all accounts beautiful. Since Lively wanted to see it later, what she saw was the first image of the start of the video, which shows Heath's wife himself and their baby after his wife gave birth at home, a natural birth or home birth. To characterize this image that captures such a beautiful moment with their newborn baby, shared with the consent of his wife for purposes of the film as a naked photo or worse, porn, is deplorable. Nonetheless, Lively did not object and asked to see the video after she ate, having managed to convince the director to write and shoot the scene according to her specifications. These brief exchanges were distorted beyond recognition in the 17-point list of return to production demands that Lively served. Still, without conceding that anything remotely inappropriate had happened, Wayfair agreed to this condition so that they would resume production. Point 6. No one to enter Lively's trailer while she was undressed. The suggestion that this ever happened is illogical and categorically false. No one would or did enter Lively's trailer without knocking first and asking permission. More than once, Lively invited Baldoni, Heath, and other producers into her trailer so that she could multitask, understandably balancing motherhood with her work obligations. Regrettably, while accommodating Lively, Baldoni and Heath were led into situations that would later be characterized as harassment. Lively herself invited Baldoni to her trailer to work on lines while she pumped breast milk. Lively regularly breastfed in front of Baldoni while they had meetings. Heath was invited into her trailer for a meeting at her request while she was having makeup removed from her collarbone because she was not able to meet at another time. Her nanny, makeup artist, and assistant were present. All right, subpoena them. And Lively was not topless, as she claims elsewhere, but was fully covered while either nursing or pumping breast milk. In this instance, he was instructed to turn away while they spoke and respectfully did so, while they figured out a time to meet with the other producers standing just outside the door, and as Heath pleaded with Lively to have the meeting the next morning to avoid her getting home late and losing shoot time the following day. While it is possible he had inadvertently made eye contact at one point, he does not recall. Lively later mentioned he did, and it made her uncomfortable, to which he responded, "I'm so sorry, I really didn't realize." Lively responded, "I know you weren't trying to cop a look." Lively's suggestion that not one, but two professional and conscientious men barged into her trailer several times, or attempted to enter or pressured her to allow them to enter, offends not only their long-established integrity, but the sanctity of their vows to their wives and their dedication to their children and families. Lively is aware that both men are incredibly supportive and respectful of motherhood, to say the least. Heath's wife is a vocal advocate for postpartum mothers. Baldoni's wife co-founded a company that designed a breastfeeding garment, a prototype that originated with his mother when he was an infant. Baldoni had gifted Lively one. While those facts would never be an excuse for barging in unannounced, it is indicative of the nature of their relationship with and respect for women. Simply put, such allegations are categorically false claims that would have been wildly out of character if they were true. Point 7, no filming nude or sex scenes except per nudity rider. Lively was provided a nudity rider approved by the SAG intimacy coordinator and was given ample opportunity to provide notes before production commenced. Despite constant pursuit over several months, Lively's attorney never produced notes. Lively not only didn't sign the nudity rider during the first phase of production, but never even signed her employment agreement. Her main concern, while Wayfair's lawyers were all but begging for signatures, was ensuring her fee was deposited into escrow. In order to move forward, they had to pay her fee even though she hadn't signed any agreements. The SAG, as the Screen Actors Guild, states that producers must provide actors at least 48 hours notice before call time to review and negotiate a nudity rider. A nudity rider approved by the SAG-AFTRA intimacy coordinator working on the production was provided to Lively's counsel on May 8th. Wayfair's attorney communicated that they would like it signed by May 11th and request they send any notes they may have. On May 12th, Lively's attorney finally responded that they were reviewing the nudity rider and would come back with notes. Their focus then shifted to ensuring Lively's fee was deposited in escrow, and they became fixated on that. Despite Wayfair's repeated requests for Lively to sign the customary certificate of engagement first, ultimately, despite constant pursuit, it became clear that Lively had no intention of signing the nudity rider on her contract at that time. When working with an actor who may take time to sign the main actor agreement, it is customary to send a certificate of engagement to protect the copyright of the film. Lively's counsel, redacted. To Blake's lawyer. Hello, Blake's lawyer. I hope you enjoyed the 4th of July. Very confused at what's going on here. Escrow was made in good faith, and we still don't have a signed COE that has been confirmed for almost 2 months. We still don't have the SAG start paperwork, which has been outstanding for over a month. Lastly, please confirm the last 2 payments are still being held in escrow. Teresa said they seem to be keeping the lawyer's name secret for some reason. I'm sure it's like, maybe it's out of professional courtesy to not drag them into it, because maybe her entertainment lawyer is not obviously the one representing her here. Auntie said, I'm wondering if she had a psychological break. I mean, yeah, there is such thing as postpartum psychosis, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, all these things. P. Mahone says, I think Friedman has successfully countered all of her allegations. Kind of, yeah. I mean, we'll have to see like evidence and stuff like that. We're starting to see the evidence, but I'm talking about the film footage to get the full context. But no, absolutely. So far. Months later, the demand became a part of the 17 demands and presented as if it were Wayfair and not Lively who was the cause of its absence. The demand also stated that any footage previously shot without the nudity rider in place may not be used without Lively and her legal rep's consent, despite the fact that no sex had been filmed yet, simulated sex. In fact, only one scene involving simulated nudity had ever been filmed, and it was a scene that Lively knew of well in advance, given that she wrote it herself. Knew when it would be filmed and directed the action herself, never requested a nudity rider or an intimacy coordinator. Point 8, Lively entitled to personal representative on set. Wayfair had no objection to allowing Lively a personal rep on set. Point 9, notice of COVID. On April 26, weeks before principal photography of the film commenced, Wayfair sent crew a COVID-19 protocol update, informing them that the AMPTP return to work agreement expired on May 12th, and as such, there would be no pre-employment testing and no mask requirements after May 12th. Although the return to work agreement that established COVID protocol expired prior to the start of principal photography and no testing or masking was required, Wayfair agreed to inform Lively if production became aware that she was exposed to COVID. Point 10. No retaliation for requests. While Wayfair in no way conceded that Lively's demands amounted to a report of genuine sexual misconduct, Wayfair had no interest in retaliating against Lively for making these demands. Their only desire was to make a great movie. In the interest of maintaining a professional and productive atmosphere on set, they agreed to meet all of her demands, including a broadly defined statement that they would not retaliate in any manner, including sarcasm. Wayfair agreed, though later became clear that Lively would consider any future effort to push back against her demands with respect to the production as unacceptable retaliation. On information and belief, this demand was included to safeguard Lively not from retaliation, but to secure her place as leader of the film with a threat of claims of retaliation if Wayfair or Baldoni pushed back. Point 11. Mutually agreed Sony representatives required on set. Wayfair agreed to the concept of having a Sony rep on set whenever Lively was on set, though it generally pushed back on the idea that it always be Ange Giannetti, who might occasionally have other pressing work obligations. Overall, however, Wayfair agreed. Point 12, additional Lively approved producer to be hired to supervise filming. Wayfair pointed out that the additional expense and the contractual implications of hiring an additional producer would have detrimental effects on the production. In the end, Wayfair agreed, as it would cost production more if Lively refused to return to work. Todd Black, suggested by Sony and approved by Lively, was ultimately brought on as an additional producer. Point 13. Existing third-party producers empowered to actively supervise the production. While disagreeing with the suggestion that any producer did not have appropriate and customary authority to actively supervise the production in their capacity as producer, Wayfair agreed to this term. Any third-party producer was already empowered to do so. By the way, this is why I think this is what makes my channel what it is, I have my wife who says, hey, make sure everyone's seen in a fair way. I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to not look at one side as completely evil. I do this all the time, even with like people that are considered terrible people. You go, look, what she may have done, if she did this all to gain control of the film, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. And she should be judged for it. It probably isn't career ruining for her. Look, I just got a downvote. Can you believe that? I can't even explain this stuff. I know most of you guys are reasonable, but the point of what I'm saying is that I think it's important to share why you think someone might be doing what they're doing. And I think this is so far a way overuse of her power, which is hilarious because she's claiming that they're the ones with the power. But I'm more interested in Ryan Reynolds. How much is him pulling the strings here? Because you could see like a very big ego not wanting Justin Baldoni to be like in control of his wife and weird stuff like that. I could see Ryan Reynolds being like the big swinging dick in all of this. But they're married, so they kind of operate as one, right? Interesting stuff. All right, we're all the way to point 14. Isn't this crazy? We're just flying through the points here. Soon said, guys, stop arguing. Yeah, didn't I ask people not to argue? Yeah, let's not argue. It's just like, what are you going to do? Argue? Spend your Friday arguing with a stranger? Share your point and then let's just move on. Wayfair to use Lively approved body and stunt doubles for intimate and sexual violence scenes. Despite not requesting this at the contract negotiation phase, Lively's pre-approved stunt and body doubles were fully accepted to Wayfair, and so they agreed despite the fact that it was an additional and unplanned expense for the film. Ultimately, no body doubles were used in the film at Lively's request. Lively and Baldoni displayed a courteous and professional relationship throughout the phase 2 of production. No filming nude or sex scenes or any actor's portrayals of Lily except her nudity rider. This was an overstep, an attempt to expand Lively's right to her own nudity rider to assert control of the nudity rider for another actor, the actor who portrayed young Lily. While seeing this as an infringing on the young actor's independent right to her own nudity rider, Wayfair once again was forced to agree, while informing Lily that young Lily had already filmed her intimate scenes pursuant to her own nudity rider. All day players must be hired through talent agencies, not personal connections. Point 16. This point appeared to relate to Lively's misleading claim that Baldoni inappropriately cast a personal friend to play the obstetrician during Lily's birth scene. Baldoni casting an experienced actor who happens to be a friend is no different than casting Lively's sister, who was cast because she is Lively's sister. Yikes. The actor portraying the obstetrician is an award-winning Shakespearean-trained actor with an MFA in acting from UCLA, and in addition to appearing on numerous hit television shows, has toured nationally with a Tony Award-winning acting company and attended Oxford's acting program on full scholarship. Oh my gosh! So they accused Baldoni of nepotism, and then Baldoni goes, this guy's a Shakespearean-trained actor, to be or not to be? Lively's current complaint states she was alarmed when Baldoni introduced him as his friend and allowed him to play this intimate role in which the actor's face and hands were in close proximity to her nearly nude genitalia, categorizing the experience as invasive and humiliating. It is Lively's suggestion that a highly trained and experienced actor would have an unseeming interest in being in close proximity to her near nude genitalia, which, as previously established, was not nude or exposed. That is inappropriate, invasive, and humiliating to the actor. To reiterate, Lively knowingly made a false statement that only a small piece of fabric covered her genitalia during the birthing scene. In fact, Lively was wearing briefs during the scene and was covered by a hospital gown. All right, so to say Lively was wearing briefs, again, this might sound stupid, but they mean she was wearing underwear. So if she did, I'm understand. Sometimes they'll put, this is going to be gross, right? But sometimes they'll put the fabric on in case the briefs kind of get in the way. They do this with sex scenes, right? They'll literally give the guy like a pouch, like a little pouch to put on. And then they'll literally glue on what could be, a piece of fabric. But they're saying that the whole time she wore the briefs, that would be easily provable based on the footage. And this is what's terrible for her, because this is footage that they would kind of have to bring to the set. They would probably not share it publicly, but like this is almost like the Barbra Streisand effect, because now they're making this way more. This is going to be way more publicized. And again, this only came out yesterday, so there's going to be a lot for the news organizations to pick through here. But again, this is going to be insane. If this thing goes to trial in New York, we will be in New York covering this. Hugo said Ryan left his wife Scarlett because he got close with Blake on a set. I didn't know that. The old showmance. All right, we're only going to go for 10 more minutes here, and then we're going to have to, everyone make sure to subscribe, because we're going to do a part 2 either tonight or tomorrow, depending on my voice. I think we might do a part 2 tomorrow night, and we'll probably spend another 3 hours covering this. Junk Farm said underwear and open hospital gown is still very uncovered. Sure, yeah. And that's where it's tough, because sure, it's uncovered, but if the main complaint is that he was hiring his friend, it's like the guy has an MFA. The guy's an Oxford-trained actor. Like, he's more than capable. Meanwhile, this case throws Blake under the bus, saying, we cast her sister. Oh, it was on the Green Lantern. Thanks for that, Hugo. I did not know that. Once again, Wayfair agreed despite being wholly offended by this accusation. And by the way, the fact that Ryan Reynolds met Blake Lively on a movie set, or their relationship developed on a movie set, maybe he's in fear that Blake would leave him for Justin Baldoni in a very intimate way. Yeah. Alex says, do you think it'll be hard for her to get more acting jobs after this? Yes. I do. Because I think while she offers a lot of talent, it's like, imagine if you have someone who's like Leighton Meester, who has no problems. You choose the person with no problems just because you need everything. You're putting so much stock in the person. I'm not saying Leighton Meester doesn't have any problems. I have no idea. Wayfair understood, but again, people talk behind the scenes. They said, like Justin Baldoni said, they were warned about this, and he was like, "No, it's fine." Star Creed says, "Dave, we've been saying this." Well, I don't know what. You have to understand, I'm reading and trying to respond to comments at the same time. So like, I only got 2 eyes and they have to look in the same direction. Wayfair understood this request to be a sincere offer to meet and discuss the needs and preferences of Lively and other cast members to ensure comfort and security while filming a movie that dealt with difficult themes. In that spirit, Wayfair readily agreed. Believing that an opportunity to discuss concerns openly and to plan resuming production would be welcome. As will be established, Wayfair's good faith belief could not have been farther from the truth behind this demand. Lively, with the support of her husband, used this demand to justify an ambush of Baldoni and Heath on the eve of the first day of filming in phase 2 of production. Importantly, Sony, who had a representative on set, found the 17 requests confusing as well. So this is from Sony. Hey, Jamie, took a look at this following our conversation. No change in my mind from what we discussed last evening. In items 1 through 10, just yes, of course. Items 11 to 13, I want to hear more about what is underlying and what she's hoping to accomplish, respectfully, in the hope that some combination of the studio reps and the empowerment of Alex, presumably, might mitigate the need to engage an additional A-level producer. Item 14 is another question mark, since it sounds like she approved the engaged stunt double. And for item 16, I guess I'm confused about this one as well, as why the engagement of day players has found its way on this list. Perhaps some of the upcoming sensitive scenes involve day players, extras, and this is an attempt to manage the perception of their professionalism. Overall, the tone of this response has to be has to be part denying the underlying insinuations allegations, but doing so in a way that doesn't inflame or escalate further, since most of what's on the list Wayfair is acknowledging addressing. And of course, any unease on her part is of paramount concern. All right, so they are just walking on eggshells. Capital Callout says Ryan cheated on Alanis with Scarlett and then cheated on Scarlett with Blake. Now his past is coming back to haunt him as he has trust issues. Oh my gosh. Is that true? Crazy. So here from Sony, I'm going to send a copy to folks internally and ask that our production attorneys also offer assistance. So they are walking on eggshells. Yeah. And again, in the world of acting, there's a lot of insecurity. Before returning to production, Lively had even more script notes and changes beyond what was already performed during phase 1 of the production. In the face of these terrifying and false accusations couched on demands, as well as Lively's threat that she would not return to production, Baldoni realized he needed to cede control of the script to Lively as she wished. His film would be taken from him by threats and coercion, and there was nothing to be done about it. In an email to his team containing the notes on his revised script, he expressed his sadness and frustration over Lively's takeover of a film that they spent years developing, writing, and funding. Having no energy left to fight, he sadly declared he was waving the white flag and submitting and would give Lively 98% of what she wants. He also expressed serious concern over how to handle the intimacy scenes, given the accusations inherent in Lively's return to production. Baldoni asked his producing partners to guide him, as he was rightfully afraid of the risk that something innocuous or not to Lively's standards would very likely be used against him, as it already had, continuing that creativity is impossible in an environment shrouded by fear. By now, we all know what she is capable of. Baldoni's fear of Lively's retaliation was palpable, but he was determined to get the film to the finish line for everyone involved. My question is, has any other director spoken out about Blake Lively? Like, has she done this before? He could make the second book with a different actress. As crazy as that would sound, it would get so much press. You know what I mean? Shannon said, I'm sticking with my initial feelings. He's a creep and she's a mean girl. She's a mean girl. Folks, we're on page 68. I added our AD here to have eyes. I've spent the better part of the last few days, this is from Justin, trying to figure this out. Everyone knows how I feel about all this and how angry I am that Blake has taken over our film and somehow rewrote a movie we spent years developing, writing, and funding. So yes, I am furious and sad, but I will continue to get back up with the goal of getting us to the finish line. I've come to terms with the fact that the only way out is through. I'm waving the white flag and submitting. I'm going to give her 98% of what she wants. I'm sure none of us have the energy to fight anymore. The team who has been working their ass off needs a shooting script on January 2nd. There are minor things I did to each scene. Some I made notes on, and tiny ones I didn't. Most of what I touched is below. The big issues are going to be intimacy, how and what we are shooting for those scenes, and how the script is going to be presented to her and with what notes. To that end, we all need to get on the phone and talk through it, as the risk of something innocuous or not meeting her standards could and would very likely be used against me, as it already has. And creativity is impossible in an environment shrouded in fear. By now, we all know what she is capable of. Yikes! A producer thanked Baldoni. Thank you for this thoughtful breakdown, Justin, especially this week and especially considering the circumstances. I'm free after 2 p.m. today. Now, Blake might say, well, these producers have to kiss Justin's ass because they've invested in a film that he has control over. I don't know. As producers continued to request a final shooting script, they were just 4 days before commencing of filming. Baldoni worked hard with very limited time to rework the script and direction to meet Lively's demands, recognizing that there would be a negotiation for what the final script looks like. Lively's demands continued to cause additional work and stress for the production team. And that's where we leave it, folks. I told you we would read the whole thing, and I have to go make the afternoon podcast. I'm going to come back to this probably tomorrow early evening, I'm thinking, or I'll let you guys know. Do me a solid. Follow me on Instagram at dneils. But for those that are in the know, I have to make the podcast, The Rush Hour. I will be discussing this briefly on the afternoon podcast, The Rush Hour. Scan that QR code if you want to listen, audio only. Maybe you're driving home. You can check out the podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever the hell you listen. I think those are the two main ones. But you can also watch the podcast here, usually starting around 4 p.m. East Coast time. So thank you guys all so much for sticking around. Thank you for the 13 super chats. There's someone who spoke out about her. I was listening to that argument. It's kind of like, I don't know. I'm not interested in like case studies of people that say she's a bitch. Anyone can be a bitch. That's not, it's, we're going to, because like I think Shannon said, he was a creep. She was a mean girl. Those things aren't why we're suing each other for $500 million, right? So yeah. We're going to get through this, but I think I'm going to do a couple more hours later on. Appreciate you guys. So for those that want to stick around on the live stream, I'm going to be going on Patreon in 15 minutes, patreon.com/Dave Neal. I'm going to take a quick break to get a bite to eat. And I do have to go pee too. I have to do that. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the 300 or so likes. And to everyone who's watched, I think we had 700 plus people in the chat. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back tomorrow or later tonight, depending on, family stuff. I might just do this late tonight. We're going to have to see. I've got a podcast that comes out tomorrow and one that comes out this afternoon. And here's Willie Billy with a super chat, $10. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that, Willie Billy. Y'all are so kind. So to the 14 super chatters and to everyone else who made real good comments and kept the conversation lighthearted. Shannon said, I just want to see the evidence. Yeah, that's what it's going to come down to, is they're going to have to show video clips of dailies. Like, it's going to be this would be a weeks long lawsuit. And you have to imagine, he's suing for way more. What was the Johnny Depp lawsuit for? 100 million? This is a big deal. This is like Looney Tune money. Anna said, my problem is, even if the cast testified negatively about Baldoni, I will struggle to believe they were not bought or manipulated, seeing a glimpse of the way Lively weaponizes her dragons to strong arm. I don't disagree with you that the cast might have been operating on half of the info. I've actually have met, I met years ago, right before the pandemic, I met Justin Baldoni's co-host, Liz Plank, and she just kind of fired him or left the podcast. And I'd be interested to hear what she has to say. And she might not want to. But we'll keep it as judicial and as unbiased as possible. Miss Rebecca said, the lawyer said they're putting it all on a website. Dang. Stir Crazy says, I heard the court case won't be till 2027. Well, we'll have to see all that. All right. That's going to be it for me. Like I said, going live on Patreon in 15 minutes, patreon.com/Dave Neal. If you enjoy what I do and want to support independent journalism, independent content creation, the super chats are great. The Patreon is great. And the other great way is to scan the QR code and check out the podcast, where we have all the entertainment and pop culture news all in one place. All right. I'll see you guys on Patreon, and I'll let you guys know when we come back for part 2. Bye.